Chapter 1767. Whoosh! As soon as Qin Feiyang finished speaking, streams of light shot out from their bodies. It was the hundreds of thousands of cedar trees. Zhao Tailai and the others were stunned. It turned out that Qin Feiyang was not talking to them. Hundreds of thousands of cedar trees, like a meteor shower, drilled into Qin Feiyang's body through his pores and merged into his flesh and blood. Immediately, a majestic life force filled every cell in his body. Thank you. Qin Feiyang expressed his gratitude in his heart, then looked at Zhao Tailai and the others and said, "Go to the Black Tortoise world and wait for my news." Okay. Yi Shu and I haven't been to the Black Tortoise world yet. I'd like to see how magical that place is. The mysterious lady smiled. Qin Feiyang smiled and waved his hand, sending the four and the golden leopard to the Black Tortoise world. The Black Eagle carried him and continued on their journey. With the hundreds of thousands of cedar trees, the fire of life, and the purple gold dragon blood, Qin Feiyang's body was equivalent to a spring of life. Even the Black Eagle could not help but be surprised by the majestic life force, and asked suspiciously, "Brother Qin, how did you do it?" Qin Feiyang briefly explained the situation. TSK. The Black Eagle was speechless and said, "I really envy you." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "Don't force yourself. If you can't hold on, tell me." The Black Eagle said, "Don't worry, I won't play with you with my life." After all, it had the cultivation of an initial success stage god of war, and the vitality in its body was unimaginable. Zhuge Mingyang, on the other hand, had only broken through to the initial stage god of war, so he could not pose a threat to the Black Eagle for a while. Another 6 hours passed. The mysterious power that robbed the vitality became stronger and stronger. Even with the help of the cedar trees, Qin Feiyang's body was showing signs of drying up. The Black Eagle was the same. It had long lost its initial vitality, as if it was sick. Along the way, they did not encounter any living ferocious beasts. All of them had turned into dried corpses. As far as the eye could see, corpses were strewn all over the place. It was like a scene straight out of hell. It was a ghastly sight. Killing so many living beings, how abominable. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. The number of dead ferocious beasts could no longer be calculated with numbers. "Who is this Zhuge Mingyang? Does it sound scary?" Black Hawk asked suspiciously. "It's an old rival of mine." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with killing intent as he asked, "Can you still hold on?" "I can still hold on a little longer. You, on the other hand, although you have Xue Song helping you, your situation seems to be worse than mine." Black Eagle said worriedly. "I'm fine," Qin Feiyang said. In the blink of an eye, another 2 hours passed. Qin Feiyang's body was almost reduced to skin and bones. The hundreds of thousands of cedars that had taken root in his body also seemed dim and lifeless. "No. I've reached my limit," Qin Feiyang said. "I'm almost there too," Black Hawk said. Originally, his body was very strong, and he could feel the surging blood qi from afar. But now he also looked old and dispirited. "How far is it?" Qin Feiyang asked. "According to this emperor's speed, it will take at most another 4 hours. But if it's you." When Black Eagle said this, he did not continue because his meaning was very clear. If it was Qin Feiyang, it would take even longer. Qin Feiyang sighed. "There's no other way. We can only go to the Black Tortoise world, and hope that he won't revive so quickly." Black Hawk nodded. However, just as they were about to enter the Black Tortoise world, the mysterious force suddenly retreated like the tide. The blood qi in his body also stopped flowing. "What's going on?" Black Hawk was bewildered. Could it be? Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked in the direction of the valley. An uneasy premonition surged in his heart. The mysterious force disappeared. Could it be that Zhuge Mingyang had been reborn? But why didn't the lightning tribulation appear? One had to know that Zhuge Mingyang was the same as him. He had not comprehended the profound meaning of becoming a god. "Old Black, quickly!" Qin Feiyang urged. Black Hawk nodded, spread his wings, and like lightning, cut through the sky. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also released his divine sense, covering all directions. More than 2 hours passed. Suddenly, a space divine object in front entered Qin Feiyang's divine sense. Boom. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly, and the pseudo-god force emerged, separating heaven and earth. Boom. That space divine object collided with the pseudo-god force, and the pseudo-god force disintegrated on the spot. Puff. Qin Feiyang also immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Haha. Immediately after, a loud laugh rang out. A young man dressed in black appeared in the sky. If it wasn't Zhuge Mingyang, who else could it be? That long gray hair and gray eyes were filled with the aura of death. His body was also surrounded by gray flames. He stood in the sky with his hands behind his back, and his long hair fluttered in the wind, like a god of death descending, making people unable to help but feel a chill in their hearts. And his aura had already reached the initial stage of the god of war. You are indeed lying to me, Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Lying to you? Zhuge Mingyang was stunned and said suspiciously, when have I lied to you? Back then, you said that you would only be reborn if you died in my hands. Then what is going on now? Qin Feiyang said. So it's this. Zhuge Mingyang suddenly understood and said with a smile. This starts from the immortal demon technique that I cultivate. Go ahead. Qin Feiyang said. Although the immortal demon technique can resurrect the dead, it also has a previous condition. The previous condition is that I have to die in the hands of the person I hate the most. In other words, if the person I hate the most kills me, I can be reborn. In the past, the person I hated the most was you, because you took everything away from me and killed my family. But when I was fighting with Lu Jiajin, his strength, his talent, and the humiliation he gave me made me transfer my hatred to him. Therefore, I was reborn and broke through to the god of war as I wished. Zhuge Mingyang said with a smile. There is actually such a magical technique in the world? Hearing this, Black Eagle's heart was filled with disbelief. So it's like this. Qin Feiyang also completely understood that this immortal demon technique was indeed a bit ridiculous. Wait a minute. Only by dying in the hands of the person you hate the most can you be reborn. Does that mean that if he kills Zhuge Mingyang now, Zhuge Mingyang won't be able to be reborn? I know what you are thinking. But do you have the confidence to kill me now? Zhuge Mingyang laughed proudly. Qin Feiyang was silent. To be honest, before he breaks through to the god of war, he doesn't have the confidence to kill Zhuge Mingyang. Moreover, even if you have the confidence before I die, I can transfer my hatred to you again. At that time, I will be reborn, and my strength will become stronger and stronger. Zhuge Mingyang laughed. Damn it! Qin Feiyang cursed in his heart. The current Zhuge Mingyang is equivalent to an immortal body, Black Eagle suddenly said. Then if we don't kill you, will your strength forever remain at the initial stage of the god of war? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He didn't think about this question before. Zhuge Mingyang's current method of breaking through was to place himself in a death trap and fight for survival. And the undying demon attack is so cruel, it must have a flaw, which is the so-called side effect. Is there such a possibility? Zhuge Mingyang can't cultivate by himself now, and can only rely on being killed to break through? Whoosh. At the same time, Zhuge Mingyang glanced at Black Eagle, his eyes flashing with a terrifying light, and shouted, Who do you think you are? Do you have the right to speak here? Black Eagle raised his eyebrows and rushed into the sky with Qin Feiyang laughing. Kid, do you think you are awesome after breaking through to the god of war? Zhuge Mingyang said, I don't know if I am awesome or not, but killing you is as easy as flipping my hand. Is that so? How dare you be so arrogant in the divine sight? Do you know that as long as I shout, you will become the public enemy of all the beast emperors on the second floor in half a day? Black Eagle sneered. Zhuge Mingyang's pupils shrank, and he said in a deep voice, You are a beast on the second floor? That's right. Not only am I a beast emperor on the second floor, but I am also a god of war on the lower completion stage. Arrogant, huh? Wait until I tell this to the Guardian. Even if you have heaven-defying means, don't even think about leaving the second floor. No, don't even think about leaving the divine sight. If you are trapped in the divine sight, what do you think will happen to you in the end? Black Eagle joked. Zhuge Mingyang's face changed slightly, and he glanced at Qin Feiyang, his eyes full of jealousy. What kind of charm does this bastard have? Why is there a beast helping him no matter where he goes? Qin Feiyang looked at Zhuge Mingyang deeply and comforted. Old Black, don't be impatient. At the same time he was pondering. Why did Zhuge Mingyang have such a big reaction after hearing Black Eagle's words? Could it be, as he guessed before, that Zhuge Mingyang was no longer able to cultivate? Therefore, when Black Eagle accidentally exposed his weakness, he became angry out of embarrassment. It seemed that he had to find an opportunity to let Yan Wei investigate this matter. His eyes flashed, and he looked up at Zhuge Mingyang and asked, "You are the one who saved Emperor Hong and the state preceptor? With your brain, do you still need to ask me?" Zhuge Mingyang snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang said, "I thought of something, but it's just my personal thought, so I want to confirm it." "Then what do you think?" Zhuge Mingyang asked. Qin Feiyang said, "I guess it's the demon ancestor's consciousness. Before you died, he took away something that could allow you to be reborn." "That's right. Under the immortal demon technique, as long as there is a drop of blood left, a strand of hair, I can be reborn. At that time, when Lu Jiajin was trying to kill me, Master took a drop of my blood and entered the spatial divine object. He did this because he expected that you would definitely interfere, so he thought of taking me to a safe place to let me be reborn. As for the person who rescued the ancestor and Emperor Hong, as well as the person who kidnapped Zhao Tailai, it was also Master," Zhuge Mingyang said. "Sure enough," Qin Feiyang muttered. It was almost the same as what he had guessed. "Enough. Now that you have the beast on the second floor to support you, I can't afford to offend you. The grudge between us will be settled when we return to the Great Qin Empire." Zhuge Mingyang smiled coldly, then entered the spatial divine object and left without looking back. Please remember the domain name of this book. Literature Museum Mobile Edition website. Chapter 1768. He's finally gone. Black Eagle let out a long sigh. Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He looked at Black Eagle suspiciously and said, "Weren't you quite fierce just now?" "That's all an act. Although I haven't fought with this Zhuge Mingyang and don't know how strong he is, the death aura he exudes makes me very nervous." Black Eagle said, "You're wise not to fight with him just now. His divine ability can deprive you of 4 small realms. Tell me, how are you going to fight with him then?" Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "What? Deprive me of 4 small realms?" Black Eagle's eyes widened in anger. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "I'll do the math. Early stage False God, Peak 9-star Combat Emperor, 9-star Combat Emperor. Damn it, I'll be deprived of 9-star Combat Emperor. What's there to play with?" Black Eagle pouted. "You can't do it like that. Your cultivation is stronger than his, so the power of your divine ability should be weaker. However, his strength is unquestionable. Don't provoke him unless you have no other choice." Qin Feiyang warned. "Got it." Black Eagle nodded and said gratefully, "Thank you for your reminder, Brother Qin." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Then let's part here. We'll meet again in the future." "Okay." Black Eagle nodded. When Qin Feiyang entered the Black Tortoise world, he discovered that only Tang Hai and Zhao Tailai were here. The mysterious lady, Yi Shu, the Golden Leopard, and the 9 beast gods who were ordered to guard the medicine field were not here. "Young master." Seeing Qin Feiyang appear, Zhao Tailai hurried to greet him. "Where are great-grandmother and Yi Shu?" Qin Feiyang asked. Zhao Tailai said, "Junior Leopard and the 9 beast emperors took them to visit the Black Tortoise world." "I see." Qin Feiyang nodded. "How's the situation outside?" Zhao Tailai asked. "Just as we thought. Zhuge Mingyang has also broken through to War God." Qin Feiyang briefly explained the situation of the undying demon art. After Zhao Tailai heard this, he sighed and said, "This is going to be even more difficult." "Yeah. However, if Zhuge Mingyang is really unable to cultivate now, it can be considered a good thing for us." Qin Feiyang smiled. Zhao Tailai said, "This is undeniable, but before it's confirmed, it's best not to have too much hope." Qin Feiyang nodded. Tang Hai suddenly asked, "When did you make this medicinal field?" "Last time, when you collected a large number of spiritual infant trees." "How was it?" "It's all right," Qin Feiyang said. "Yes." Tang Hai nodded. Qin Feiyang looked around and finally looked at the center of the herb field. That place turned out to be a plaza, which was also the entrance to the Black Tortoise realm. And now, the plaza had disappeared, and in its place was a courtyard. Finally, it was a small building with a total of 2 floors. It looked very ordinary, but it was understandable. After all, the 9 beast emperors were all ferocious beasts. They could not have built such a beautiful and unique courtyard. However, the surroundings of the courtyard were very beautiful. More than a dozen lush green trees stood around the fence. There were also a few flower beds around the small building, competing for beauty and fragrance. A winding path started from the gate of the courtyard and wound around the entire courtyard. On the east side of the courtyard, next to the small building, there was a pavilion with a stone table and 4 stone benches. Qin Feiyang stepped into the courtyard and looked around. He smiled and nodded. Not bad. As he spoke, he walked into the pavilion and waved at Zhao Tailai and Tang Hai. It's rare that I have time to relax. Come over, and let's have a few drinks. A few drinks? The two looked at each other, entered the pavilion, and sat at the stone table. Zhao Tailai asked suspiciously, the imperial advisor and Mu Tianyang haven't been dealt with yet, right? Qin Feiyang took out his Qingquan bag and searched for a long time before he found a jar of wine. He smiled. I don't like to drink, so I didn't specially prepare it. Just make do with it. Young lord, wait a moment. Zhao Tailai took the wine jar and said, there will be plenty of opportunities to drink in the future. The most important thing now is to rush to the vacuum between the 1st and 2nd floor. Where are we going? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Of course, to leave the divine site. Are you confused? If we let Zhuge Mingyang and the others go back first, they will definitely stir up trouble in the Great Qin Empire, Zhao Tailai said. Qin Feiyang smiled. Without me, they won't be able to go back. Won't be able to go back. Zhao Tailai was stunned. What do you mean? To open the passage to the outside, we need the 10 clusters of alchemy fire, and 2 of them are with me now. Without me, do you think they can leave? Qin Feiyang laughed. It turned out that he had 3 clusters of alchemy fire, but before entering the divine site, he gave 1 cluster to Emperor Hong, so there were only 2 left. So that's how it is. Zhao Tailai suddenly realized and shook his head with a wry smile. It turns out that young lord has a card up his sleeve. It seems this subordinate was overthinking. No, actually, I quite like people like you who say whatever comes to mind. Unlike some people who usually don't say a word and treat their words like gold, but when they suddenly spout out a sentence, they can anger people to death. Qin Feiyang coldly snorted. Zhao Tailai immediately glanced at Tang Hai and couldn't help but want to laugh. Tang Hai raised his eyebrows and looked at Zhao Tailai. Why are you looking at me? What does it have to do with me? No. Zhao Tailai quickly waved his hand. Nonsense. Even a fool knew that Qin Feiyang was talking about Tang Hai, and this guy was still so calm, as if it had nothing to do with him. Qin Feiyang poured a glass of wine, lowered his head and took a sip. Actually, I have another purpose for staying here. What is it? Zhao Tailai was suspicious. Tang Hai also looked at him in confusion. I need time to refine the soul stone and break through to the war god realm. And Mu Tianyang, Mu Tianjun, and demon ancestor also need time to fuse with the divine body. So whether it's me or them, after leaving the divine site, we will all hide for a while. In other words, the battle will not break out immediately, Qin Feiyang said. Zhao Tailai nodded and said, we all know this, and then? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, but what if I refine the soul stone in the divine site? Refine the soul stone in the divine site? The two lowered their heads and pondered. Suddenly, Zhao Tailai's eyes lit up. He looked up at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, I understand. Tell me about it. Qin Feiyang said with a smile as he drank. Young master's plan is to refine the soul stone in the divine site and break through to the war god realm. In this way, we can seize the opportunity. Because if young master breaks through to the war god realm here, after leaving the divine site, he doesn't need to hide anymore. Mu Tianyang and the others are different. They still need time to fuse with the divine body. And during the time they are fusing with the divine body, they won't be able to exert their peak strength. And this is our opportunity. Zhao Tailai said. That's right. Qin Feiyang nodded. Tang Hai said, what if they also start to fuse with the divine body in the divine sight? Qin Feiyang said, have you seen Mu Tianyang's divine body, Mu Tianjun and demon ancestors' divine soul? No. Tang Hai shook his head. That's right. The battle at the sealed land a few days ago was so fierce, but I didn't see Mu Tianyang's divine body, nor did I see the divine soul of Mu Tianjun and demon ancestor. What does this mean? This means that their divine bodies and divine souls have not entered the divine sight. If they haven't entered the divine sight, how can they fuse? Demon ancestor did send a wisp of divine consciousness in, but it's impossible to fuse with just a wisp of divine consciousness. Qin Feiyang laughed. Tang Hai said, if that's the case, we can indeed seize the opportunity. So let them wait in the vacuum area. After I break through to the war god realm, I'll slowly go and find them. Qin Feiyang said. You're such a thief. Tang Hai despised. Thief. Do you know how to talk? This is called strategy, understand? Qin Feiyang said angrily. Tang Hai said coldly. If you're not a thief, why would you think of such a strategy? I have a bad temper. Qin Feiyang suddenly became angry and said angrily. Do you have to go against me? Young lord, calm down, calm down. Don't you know old Tang? He's just talking. Why bother with him? Come, come, let's drink. Zhao Tailai hurriedly stood up to smooth things over. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly. In a word, he didn't have any prestige. If he was like the state preceptor and Mu Tianyang, would Tang Hai be so presumptuous? But there were gains and losses. Although he didn't have any prestige, he gained everyone's sincerity. This was also what he really wanted. Regardless of whether they were subordinates or friends, life would only be interesting if everyone stayed together happily. That evening, the Golden Leopard and the 9 Beast Emperors came back with the mysterious lady and Yi Shu. You're still in the mood to drink? When the mysterious lady saw Qin Feiyang and the other two sitting in the pavilion, drinking and chatting leisurely, the anger in her heart immediately surged. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Great-grandmother, aren't you also quite free? How about it? Is the Black Tortoise realm to your liking? How can I be the same as you? The mysterious lady glared at him and asked, how is Zhuge Mingyang doing? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, you don't have to worry about this. Just enjoy your retirement here. The mysterious lady was furious. She turned to look at Yi Shu and asked, am I old? This. Yi Shu complained in his heart. You two can bicker, but why do you have to make things difficult for me? All right, great-grandmother, don't be angry. I already have a plan. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, what plan? The mysterious lady was suspicious. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, when the time comes, you'll naturally know. So mysterious. The mysterious lady rolled her eyes at Qin Feiyang, but she was relieved. After all, she had watched Qin Feiyang grow up and knew Qin Feiyang inside out. Since Qin Feiyang said that he had a plan, then she had nothing to worry about. Chapter 1769. In the pavilion in the courtyard, everyone was chatting happily. Late at night, Qin Feiyang finally got up and went into seclusion in the castle. Although the mysterious lady, Yi Shu, Zhao Tailai, Tang Hai, and the Golden Leopard had all entered the castle to stabilize their cultivation. Just like that, the days passed. On the 10th day after Qin Feiyang went into seclusion, Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang entered the vacuum zone one after another. Seeing that Zhuge Mingyang was still alive, Mu Tianyang was also very surprised. However, the two sides had a tacit understanding and didn't make a move. On the 20th day after Qin Feiyang went into seclusion, Mu Tianyang finally couldn't hold back his anger and said, what is Qin Feiyang doing? Why isn't he here yet? Zhuge Mingyang stood to the side and heard Mu Tianyang's words. He said coldly, I saw him before coming here. You saw him? Mu Tianyang frowned. Yes. But I thought he would come here immediately, so I didn't pay attention to his whereabouts. Zhuge Mingyang said in a low voice. Mu Tianyang said, is he still on the 2nd floor? Impossible. He has already broken through to the semi-divinity realm, so there's no point in going there. I think he's up to something again. Zhuge Mingyang snorted coldly. This bastard really doesn't let me feel at ease for even a moment. Mu Tianyang cursed angrily. Zhuge Mingyang glanced at the stone door in the middle and suggested, "Why don't we work together and see if we can open the stone door without using alchemy fire?" Naive. Qin Batian and I tried it the last time the miracle opened. We couldn't even open the stone door with our cultivation at the time, let alone you and me. Mu Tianyang snorted coldly. Zhuge Mingyang suddenly understood and said, "So you were all war gods at the small completion stage back then?" Mu Tianyang said, "Are you trying to trick me? Only now do I see it. Looks like you, the previous emperor, aren't that smart after all." Zhuge Mingyang sneered. Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed with killing intent. Zhuge Mingyang said with disdain, "You're just a war god at the initial success stage. You better not be arrogant in front of me, or else. You still want to take advantage of me?" Mu Tianyang raised his eyebrows and sneered. "Otherwise what? In the past, I was indeed very afraid of you. But now, even if you've fused with the divine body, I don't care. Do you feel particularly aggrieved? Thinking back 10,000 years ago, you were a peerless figure who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Qin Emperor. But today, after 10,000 years, not only has his strength not improved, he is even weaker than before. Even juniors like me and Qin Feiyang dare to ride on your head and behave atrociously?" The ridicule on Zhuge Mingyang's face was undisguised. "Aggrieved," Mu Tianyang muttered. Indeed, he was very unwilling in his heart. Even 10,000 years ago, in the face of a peerless figure like Qin Batian, he was not the slightest bit afraid. But now, just two juniors had humiliated him time and time again. For the previous emperor, the dignified war god, it was simply a great humiliation. This was the so-called tiger that fell to the plains was bullied by dogs. He had secretly vowed in his heart more than once that once he fused with the divine body and recovered his peak cultivation, he would definitely make these people pay the price. He had to let them know that offending him, Mu Tianyang, was equivalent to offending the heavens. Suddenly, Zhuge Mingyang said, "Mu Tianyang, I have a good suggestion. I don't know if you want to hear it." "Let's hear it." Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed and said, "Let's work together to get rid of Qin Feiyang and Tantai Li. At that time, the great Qin Empire will belong to me, the forgotten continent will belong to you, and we will rule the world together." Zhuge Mingyang said, "You're quite ambitious." Mu Tianyang sneered. Zhuge Mingyang said proudly, "As a man, how can I not have some ambition? What do you think of my suggestion?" Mu Tianyang said, "Is this your idea, or your master demon ancestors? My master doesn't care about this at all. What he wants is Qin Feiyang's life, because he wants Qin Batian to regret it." Zhuge Mingyang said, "Don't tell me he doesn't want my life. You must know that back then it was me and Qin Batian who worked together to get rid of him." Mu Tianyang sneered. "Isn't this forced by the situation? Master did want to get rid of you in the past, but now the situation is different. If we fight on our own, I'm afraid that in the end, no one will be able to gain an advantage." Zhuge Mingyang said. Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed, and a moment later he smiled. "I will consider this proposal carefully. Then I'll wait for the good news." Zhuge Mingyang laughed. Time flew and half a year passed. In other words, Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang had already waited here for half a year. This hateful guy. What exactly is he doing? Now not only Mu Tianyang, but even Zhuge Mingyang couldn't help but be angry. Whoosh! Suddenly, a young man in black rushed out of the stone door on the first floor and entered the vacuum zone. And Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang turned their heads to look, and a trace of surprise crept up between their brows. "You actually came to the divine site too?" Zhuge Mingyang said. "Is it strange that I came to the divine site? Why did you and Qin Feiyang have the same reaction when you saw me?" The young man in black frowned. That's right. This person was Dong Zhengyang, and his cultivation had already stepped into the false god realm. Zhuge Mingyang was stunned, and said in a deep voice, "When did you see Qin Feiyang?" "A long time ago." After Dong Zhengyang finished speaking, he glanced at Mu Tianyang, and a trace of light flashed in the depths of his eyes and said, Should I call you Lu Xingqian? Or should I call you the emperor of the previous dynasty? It's just a name, you can call me whatever you want. Mu Tianyang smiled faintly and said, But I'm curious, why did you come up from the first floor? What's so strange about that? Dong Zhengyang was puzzled. As everyone knows, no matter who it is, once anyone breaks through to the false god realm on the first floor, they will immediately be sent to the second floor. So logically speaking, you should be sent to the second floor first, and then enter this place through the passage of the second floor. But just now you came up directly from the first floor. This means that the divine sight didn't send you to the second floor. Isn't that strange? Mu Tianyang said. Zhuge Mingyang raised his eyebrows. At first he didn't understand what Mu Tianyang meant, but after hearing Mu Tianyang's explanation, he immediately understood. Dong Zhengyang did seem to have come up from the first floor. About this matter, Dong Zhengyang frowned and said, To be honest, I don't know what's going on either. Now I'm also wondering. This happened to you. How can you not know? Zhuge Mingyang raised his eyebrows, and the look in his eyes became extremely unfriendly. Dong Zhengyang said angrily, Nonsense, do I look like I know? Zhuge Mingyang looked at Dong Zhengyang's expression, and did not seem to be lying. Mu Tianyang was also looking at Dong Zhengyang. Suddenly, a murderous intent surged, and he pounced on Dong Zhengyang shouting, What's your relationship with Qin Feiyang? Qin Feiyang? Dong Zhengyang was suspicious. Mu Tianyang said, Qin Feiyang has an extraordinary relationship with the current guardian. If not him, who else would help you? Zhuge Mingyang's eyes also surged with a strong murderous intent. Dong Zhengyang glanced at the two, his eyes full of vigilance, and said, I really don't know what you are talking about. Boom. Zhuge Mingyang's power erupted, and he pounced on Dong Zhengyang. This aura. You've actually broken through to the war god level. Dong Zhengyang's face turned pale with fright. It's good that you know. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me, have you already joined Qin Feiyang? Zhuge Mingyang shouted. Dong Zhengyang said in a low voice, I, Dong Zhengyang, am upright and righteous. If I say no, I mean no, Zhuge Mingyang said. How can I believe a one-sided story? Why are you talking so much nonsense? I'd rather kill 1,000 by mistake than let one go, Mu Tianyang said murderously. No. If he's really related to Qin Feiyang, then he still has value. Zhuge Mingyang smiled coldly. He pointed his index finger in the air, and a burst of divine power surged out, instantly entering Dong Zhengyang's energy reserve. Pooh! Dong Zhengyang's energy reserve was destroyed on the spot, and blood poured out of his mouth. He glared at the two and shouted, Qin Feiyang killed my family. I want to drink his blood and eat his flesh. How can I have anything to do with him? Zhuge Mingyang sneered. That's even better. Follow me, work for me, and I'll avenge you. Why would a hot-blooded man work for you? Dong Zhengyang snorted coldly. That's not up to you. Zhuge Mingyang's hands formed a seal, and a blood-red mark appeared, and entered Dong Zhengyang's head like lightning. Blood soul technique. Mu Tianyang looked at this scene and frowned, but he didn't do anything to stop it. However, just as the blood soul technique was about to take control of Dong Zhengyang, a shocking murderous aura emerged from Dong Zhengyang's mind with a boom. The blood-red mark was instantly destroyed. Then, that murderous aura rushed out from Dong Zhengyang's forehead and rushed towards Zhuge Mingyang. What's that? Zhuge Mingyang's expression changed. Mu Tianyang was also very surprised. Boom. That murderous aura arrived in an instant, tearing the flesh on Zhuge Mingyang's lower abdomen, and was about to enter Zhuge Mingyang's energy reserve. In the nick of time, Zhuge Mingyang came back to his senses, raised his arm like lightning, and slapped at the murderous aura. Boom. The murderous aura shattered. But Zhuge Mingyang's arm also shattered, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. This, Mu Tianyang was petrified on the spot. A wisp of murderous aura could actually seriously injure Zhuge Mingyang? How terrifying was the owner of this murderous aura? Zhuge Mingyang himself also looked at his shattered arm, dumbfounded. Swish. All of a sudden, he raised his head and stared at Dong Zhengyang, and said coldly, Who on earth is helping you? Hee hee. Dong Jungyang laughed, slowly swallowed a spirit sea pill, and looked at Zhuge Mingyang indifferently and said, "You have the demon ancestor behind you, and I also have a big shot behind me, even stronger than the demon ancestor, so you'd better not do anything." "What? Stronger than master?" Zhuge Mingyang was shocked. Mu Tianyang was also dumbfounded. Why didn't he know that there was someone more terrifying than the demon ancestor in this world? "Could it be," Mu Tianyang said, "the person behind you can't be Qin Yuan, right?" "Qin Yuan? You're talking about Qin Feiyang's uncle, aren't you?" "Unfortunately, it's not him." Dong Jungyang laughed. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Mobile version of reading website, M. Chapter 1770. "It's not Qin Yuan either." Mu Tianyang frowned. "I don't care who the person behind you is. As long as it's someone who dares to hurt me, Zhuge Mingyang, I won't let a single one of them go." Demonic hand. Zhuge Mingyang's ferocious nature erupted as his divine power surged out and transformed into a giant palm. Like a huge mountain, he charged towards Dong Jungyang. Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed as he silently retreated to the side. Dong Jungyang raised his head and looked at the demonic hand. Looking at Zhuge Mingyang, a cold light flashed in his eyes as he said, "Do you really want to make a move?" "Nonsense!" Zhuge Mingyang shouted. "All right." Dong Jungyang nodded. Immediately, a monstrous killing intent suddenly erupted from between his eyebrows. This time, it was no longer a wisp of killing intent, but a vast expanse. That killing intent was like a wave of blood as it roared out from between his eyebrows and blasted towards the demonic hand. Accompanied by a deafening loud sound, the demonic hand immediately disintegrated. Zhuge Mingyang retreated continuously, blood flowing out of his mouth. His face was filled with shock. He had actually defeated his deity art so effortlessly? Dong Jungyang said, "You are not my match, call your master's demon ancestor out." "Arrogant. Why would my master need to personally deal with an ant like you?" Zhuge Mingyang was seething with anger. In the past, he knew that there was a person called Dong Jungyang, but he had never taken him seriously. Because no matter how one looked at it, Dong Jungyang was just an insignificant character. But he never thought that the result would be a wolf in sheep's clothing. Strange. Even the demon ancestor knows so much about it. Who exactly is the owner of this killing intent? Mu Tianyang sized up Dong Jungyang, his heart full of suspicion. With Dong Jungyang's ability, it was definitely impossible for him to know about the existence of the demon ancestor. The only explanation was the mysterious figure hiding behind Dong Jungyang. The atmosphere at the scene became more and more tense. This small space was filled with surging killing intent at this moment. "You piece of trash, can you hurry up?" But at this moment, suddenly, an angry roar came from the stone door on the first floor. "Bastard, you're the trash." "No, you're not even trash." Following closely, another different curse was heard. Mu Tianyang, Zhuge Mingyang, and Dong Jungyang were stunned and turned to look at the stone door. Whoosh! Immediately, two figures flew out from the stone door and appeared in their line of sight. It was a young man and a huge ferocious beast. The young man was tall and slender, and he had a hooked nose. His eyes were like those of an eagle, and they shone with a sharp light. As for the ferocious beast, its fur was dark red, and it looked like a large dog. It had 7 heads on its shoulders, and it emitted a ferocious aura. Furthermore, the man and the beast both exuded an extremely powerful aura, indicating that they were false divinities. Tan Wu. Hellhound? Dong Jungyang was stunned. That's right. They were Tan Wu and the Hellhound. When the man and beast entered the void zone, they felt that the atmosphere was not right and immediately became vigilant. Hearing Dong Jungyang's voice, Tan Wu was also slightly stunned and said in surprise, "Dong Jungyang." He then looked at Zhuge Mingyang and Mu Tianyang. When he saw Zhuge Mingyang covered in injuries, he immediately realized that something was wrong. Although Zhuge Mingyang was injured, his aura made him feel despair. He quickly poked the Hellhound's head and looked at Dong Jungyang and the other two with a smile. "Sorry, we went to the wrong place. You guys continue." Yes, we'll leave right away. Don't worry about us, just pretend that we've never been here." The Hellhound also nodded and smiled. One man and one beast immediately turned around and prepared to enter the stone door. Wait. Tan Wu's expression suddenly froze. He grabbed the hellhound and said in a low voice, I heard that after breaking through to the false god realm, you can no longer go to the first floor. Otherwise, you will be killed by the rule force? There's such a thing. The hellhound nodded. Then what should we do? Tan Wu asked. The hellhound said angrily, Are you an idiot? If we can't go to the first floor, then of course we can only go to the second floor now. Yes. Look at my head, I'm so scared that I'm confused. Tan Wu slapped his forehead, turned his head to look at the stone door, and said in a daze, Why are there so many doors? That. Tan Wu looked at Dong Xingyang and the other two and said, Do any of you know which door leads to the second floor? Mu Tianyang looked at the man and beast in a daze and instinctively replied, The stone door on the right. Thank you. The man and the beast said gratefully, then ran towards the stone door on the right. Why should I tell them? Just as Tan Wu and the hellhound were about to enter the stone door, Mu Tianyang was stunned and hurriedly said, Wait. What's the matter? Tan Wu asked. Trash, I said you're stupid, and you still don't admit it? Why did you answer him? Hurry up and run. The hellhound said angrily. That's right. Why did I answer him? Tan Wu was stunned for a moment, then immediately entered the stone door with the hellhound. Boom. However, right at this moment, Mu Tianyang took a step forward and landed in front of the stone door. He grabbed Tan Wu and the hellhound and forcefully pulled them out. Then Mu Tianyang threw Tan Wu and the hellhound to the other side of the void and directly blocked the stone door of the second floor. It's over. Tan Wu stabilized his body and looked at Mu Tianyang as he muttered. The hellhound said angrily, Isn't it all because of you? If you didn't answer him, would he have been able to stop us? Tan Wu said aggrievedly, Isn't this instinct? Instinct, your sister. I knew that you were stupid and unreliable. I was really blind to actually walk with you. The hellhound snorted coldly. Tan Wu's face darkened as he roared. Let me tell you, damn dog, if you speak rudely again, don't blame me for being impolite to you. Who are you calling a damn dog? Try calling me that again? The hellhound shouted. Mu Tianyang and the other two looked at each other in dismay. Was this man and beast's brain short-circuited? They didn't know the current situation, and still had the mood to quarrel there? Mu Tianyang said angrily. Both of you shut up. Tan Wu and the hellhound's bodies trembled as they hurriedly looked at Mu Tianyang, their faces full of fawning smiles. My head is all dizzy because of you guys. Mu Tianyang glared fiercely at Tan Wu and the hellhound. Yes, it's our fault. The hellhound nodded and asked humbly. May I ask which great immortal you are? Which great immortal? Mu Tianyang's veins bulged as he shouted. Don't pester me endlessly, I am Mu Tianyang. You guys actually don't know? Aren't you a little too ignorant? So you are the imperial emperor of the previous dynasty. Excuse me. But I heard that you have already been destroyed by the Qin emperor? Why did you appear in the miracle site now? The hellhound looked at Mu Tianyang suspiciously. Damn dog, although he is the ruler of a fallen country, he is still an imperial emperor. How can you be so rude? Tan Wu frowned and scolded, looking at Mu Tianyang and said with a smile. I'm sorry, this junior didn't discipline him well. I hope Imperial Emperor will forgive me. Ruler of a fallen country? Mu Tianyang was instantly enraged. Although Tan Wu was polite, it undoubtedly made him even angrier. Don't pretend to be crazy with us here. Speak. Why are you guys the same as Dong Xingyang, not sent to the second floor of the miracle site by the power of rules? Mu Tianyang shouted. How would we know this? Maybe it's because our character is good, the hellhound said. When Mu Tianyang heard this, the anger in his heart suddenly rose and he roared. What does this have to do with character? How can it have nothing to do with it? No matter where, no matter who, they will definitely take care of people with good character, the hellhound said aggrievedly. Bastard! Mu Tianyang couldn't hold it in any longer. 2 strands of divine sense broke through the air and rushed towards Tan Wu and the hellhound's forehead. You're being unreasonable. We haven't offended you. Why are you attacking us? The hellhound said angrily. That's right. Tanwu nodded. While they were talking, one man and one beast displayed a mysterious footwork, narrowly avoiding the bombardment of divine sense. And you can actually dodge it. Mu Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Luck. Don't make things difficult for us. After all, you are also an imperial emperor. What is the meaning of making things difficult for us two juniors? Moreover, my mouth is not tight and I can't control the wind. If I accidentally say it out, then wouldn't you be laughed at? Aren't you dealing with Dong Jingyang? Just pretend that we don't exist, okay? The hellhound smiled embarrassedly and looked at Mu Tianyang pleadingly. My mouth is not tight. Mu Tianyang was so angry that he laughed. He actually dared to threaten him? That's enough. Damn dog, stop talking. Tanwu glared at the hellhound, glanced at the three of them, and said indifferently, Mu Tianyang, Zhuge Mingyang and Dong Jingyang, no matter what grudges you have, don't involve us. Of course, we won't interfere in your affairs. Dong Jingyang smiled and said, I don't care, but these two people, I'm afraid they won't do as you wish. Tanwu shook his head helplessly and sighed. Then this makes things difficult for me. And Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang looked at Tanwu with a fearless look. Could it be that this person also had something to rely on? Mu Tianyang said. This monarch only wants to know the reason why you guys weren't sent to the second level by the power of rules. I don't know. Actually, I'm also wondering. Tanwu shook his head. Dong Jingyang doesn't know. Tanwu doesn't know either. What exactly is going on? Mu Tianyang muttered. Zhuge Mingyang grinned sinisterly and said, No matter what the reason is, kill them all. Tanwu smiled and said, I advise you it's best not to make a move. Are you threatening me? Zhuge Mingyang suddenly looked at Tanwu, his killing intent not concealed. Tanwu crossed his arms and said with a confident smile, If you really think so, you can also take it that I'm threatening you. Sigh, since this trash has already said so, then this monarch will also be a little more unyielding, lest I embarrass him. The Hell Divine Hound sighed softly and stood up like a human. The cheeky smile from before was gone, and its entire body was filled with a murderous aura. Dong Jingyang glanced at Tanwu and the Hell Divine Hound, then looked at Zhuge Mingyang and said with a chuckle, It's really getting more and more interesting. He was also very curious. What reliance did it have to make Tanwu so confident? Could it be that there was also a big shot hiding behind this Tanwu? Genius 1 second. Remember this website address. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 1771. Zhuge Mingyang stared at Tanwu and the Hell Godhound, his eyes flickering. Time passed breath by breath. Everyone was silent, and the atmosphere was incomparably oppressive. A moment passed. The Hell Godhound couldn't bear the atmosphere any longer, and secretly sent a sound transmission to Tanwu. Trash, if you have any trump cards, just take them out. It's so tiring to be in a stalemate with them like this. Tanwu secretly said. You've been with me all this time. If I really have any trump cards, how could you not know? What the hell? The Hell Godhound panicked and secretly said angrily. Don't tell me that you're just putting on an act. Then what do you think I'm doing? It's not like you don't know. Before we left, old Master Qin gave us a few divine pills. As for the rest, he told us to do as we see fit. Tanwu said snappily. The Hell Godhound secretly said angrily. You bastard, I'm really going to die because of you. Don't talk nonsense. Straighten your back. If we don't scare them today, both of us will be finished. Tanwu coldly snorted. Unreliable bastard, I'll settle the score with you later. The Hell Godhound secretly cursed, its back straightened, and its eyes became more and more arrogant, as if it really had something to rely on. Boom. Suddenly, Zhuge Mingyang took a step forward, his killing intent soaring to the heavens. Crap. Tanwu's eyelids twitched. But then, Zhuge Mingyang raised his eyebrows, retracted his steps, and glanced at Mu Tianyang. What's going on? The Hell Godhound secretly said. Tanwu sent a sound transmission. He should be worried about Mu Tianyang. If both of us suffer, it will naturally be Mu Tianyang who reaps the benefits. Looks like we really scared him. Otherwise he wouldn't have considered so much. The Hell Godhound secretly laughed. We can't let our guard down yet, Tan Wu secretly said. Mu Tianyang raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion. Zhuge Mingyang, you're not even afraid of Qin Feiyang. Why are you afraid of them? You can't wait for me to make a move. Zhuge Mingyang sneered. How could this be? Mu Tianyang shook his head and smiled. I was just considering joining hands with you. Really? How about this? Let's split up. I'll deal with Dong Xingyang, and you deal with Tan Wu and the Hell God Dog, Zhuge Mingyang said. Aren't you making things difficult for me? Right now, I'm only a divine sense body. Not to mention that Tan Wu and the Hell God Hound have hidden trump cards. Even if they didn't, I'm still not their match. Mu Tianyang said. Keep pretending, keep pretending. Who doesn't know that you have a heaven-defying divine artifact? Zhuge Mingyang sneered. Mu Tianyang said. Then what if Tan Wu is also hiding a heaven-defying divine artifact? When Zhuge Mingyang heard this, he was immediately annoyed and said angrily, Do you think that a heaven-defying divine artifact is a radish or a cabbage that can be found everywhere on the street? This time he didn't dare to make a move. Even such a far-fetched excuse, Mu Tianyang could find it. He definitely had ulterior motives. Mu Tianyang said helplessly. Saying so much, isn't it because you don't believe me? Aren't you the same? Zhuge Mingyang snorted coldly and decisively stopped. He took out a healing pill and threw it into his mouth. Then he walked to the side and quietly recuperated. What a pity, Mu Tianyang muttered secretly. Seeing this, the Hell God Dog secretly heaved a sigh of relief and sent a sound transmission. Fortunately, these two people have ulterior motives. Otherwise, we would really have to go see the King of Hell this time. Yeah, Tan Wu replied, glancing at Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang. There was a sneer in the depths of his eyes. Originally, these two people, any one of them could easily kill him and the Hell God Dog. But because of the distrust between the two sides, they missed a good opportunity. However, this was also within his expectations. The grudge between the two sides had basically reached the point of no return. Even if they had reached a true alliance, they would not believe each other at all. Even if there was a chance, they would not hesitate at all and directly give the other party a fatal blow from behind. In other words, Zhuge Mingyang's approach was a very wise choice. Actually, Tan Wu and the Hell God Dog didn't know that even if Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang really attacked them, they would be fine. Because in the dark, there was a person watching them. This person was Qin Feiyang. It's a pity that they didn't fight. In the void next to Tan Wu, Qin Feiyang stood above the Black Tortoise Realm's medicine field, looking at Zhuge Mingyang and Mu Tianyang in the image, his face full of regret. Tang Hai, Zhao Tailai, and Cui Li stood side by side behind Qin Feiyang. Cui Li's aura had already reached the level of a war god. That's right. After half a year of seclusion, whether it was Cui Li or Qin Feiyang, they had already stepped into the war god realm. After all, half a year outside was close to 5 years inside the ancient castle. Think about it, with Qin Feiyang here, how could anything happen to Tan Wu? Moreover, not only Qin Feiyang and Cui Li, but the Lady of the Dragon Phoenix House, Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, Gong Sunbei, Lu Zheng, the Golden Wolf King, and the Scorpion King had also stepped into the false god realm in this half a year. The White-Eyed Wolf had also broken through to the peak of the 9-star Combat Emperor realm, and was now in Ling Yunfei's spatial divine item, comprehending the profound meaning of becoming a true god. Fatso, Lu Hong, Viper, Winged Snow Eagle, and the other beasts had also improved their cultivation by a lot, ranging from 9-star Combat Emperor to 8-star Combat Emperor. The Spirit Queen, Wang Zicheng, and Barbarian Bull had also improved by leaps and bounds since entering the ancient castle. In short, their small team now had a total of 5 war gods, namely Qin Feiyang, Zhao Tailai, Tang Hai, Cui Li, and the Golden Leopard. Of course, the 6 elders, Willow Tree, Li Jian, Yu Huang, and the other false gods were also working hard, crazily trying to break through to the war god realm. As for Qin Feiyang, when did he enter the vacuum zone? In fact, he had arrived a few days earlier than Dong Xingyang and Tan Wu. After breaking through to the war god realm, he drove the Black Tortoise realm and rushed here. He had been hiding in the Black Tortoise realm and did not appear, because he wanted to see if he could find an opportunity to get rid of one or two. For example, the state preceptor and Mu Changfeng. Unfortunately, after waiting for a few days, these people did not appear. However, the appearance of Dong Jingyang and Tan Wu was somewhat out of his expectations. What surprised him even more was that Dong Jingyang actually hit so deeply. He had suspected more than once that Dong Jingyang might also be someone that Uncle Yuan helped him cultivate. But after observing, it did not feel like it. And after this incident, he could finally confirm that Dong Jingyang and Uncle Yuan had nothing to do with each other, because that killing intent did not belong to Uncle Yuan. As for Tan Wu and the Hell God Hound, the breakthrough of these two fellows also surprised him. He remembered that the last time they met, Tan Wu and the Hell God Hound had just taken the divine pill and stepped into the peak of the 9-star War God realm. And how long had it been? Both of them had actually broken through to the false god realm. This speed was even more terrifying than Ling Yunfei and the others. Could it also be related to the divine pill? But if there was really a divine pill that could speed up a person's comprehension of the profound meaning of becoming a god and break through to the false god realm, then why didn't Ling Yunfei and the others? One had to know. Whether it was Tan Wu or Ling Yunfei and the others, they were all nurtured by Uncle Yuan. As for Uncle Yuan's character, he naturally knew it best, and would definitely not favor one and discriminate against the other. Zhao Tailai glanced at Zhuge Mingyang and Mu Tianyang and frowned. Young master, we can't just wait here for a few days and not do anything, right? What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Since Mu Changfeng and the imperial tutor are not coming out, then we'll make a move on Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang, Zhao Tailai said. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, these two people both have spatial divine objects, and they are also very cautious people. If we want to attack them, the success rate is too low. Zhao Tailai could not help but frown. Tang Hai said, now that you have also stepped into the war god realm, we might as well kill them here. Good idea. Zhao Tailai's eyes lit up and said, if we go out to fight, we will definitely not be able to avoid the destruction of lives. But here, no matter how we fight, we will not implicate an innocent life. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. It's not that I haven't thought about this, but do you think that they will fight us head-on now? Definitely not. After all, they don't have the confidence. Cui Li said. That's right. If we have to fight, Zhuge Mingyang and Mu Tianyang can definitely enter the spatial divine object to avoid the battle. Qin Feiyang said. Zhao Tailai said angrily. This won't do, that won't do. Could it be that we have to wait until we leave the divine site to fight? Only after leaving the divine site can we break them one by one. Because at that time, Zhuge Mingyang, the imperial tutor, and Emperor Hong will return to the Great Qin Empire, or go to the Sea of Reincarnation to find the demon ancestor. As for Mu Tianyang and the Mu family, if nothing unexpected happens, they will probably enter the Forgotten Continent's internal sea. Because the internal sea is unable to open the portal, it is convenient for them to hide. In other words, our battle with them is very likely to take place in the Sea of Reincarnation and the Endless Ocean, so we won't implicate too many innocent people. Qin Feiyang said. If that's the case, then we don't have to be too insistent on fighting with them now, Zhao Tailai said with a smile. Old Zhao, you have really changed. I remember that back in the Black Tortoise world, you didn't care about the lives of others. Qin Feiyang said. Young master, aren't you the one who influenced me? Zhao Tailai said with a smile, rubbing his head. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed, and the topic suddenly changed. However, we can also try to attack Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang now. With a thought, the mysterious lady and Yi Shu immediately appeared from the ancient castle. Qin Feiyang was about to speak, but the mysterious lady waved her hand. Yi Shu and I heard it, you don't have to explain anymore. After saying that, the mysterious lady waved her hand, and the hook-nosed old man and the monkey-faced old man both appeared. Qin Feiyang glanced at everyone and said, it would be best if we succeed in attacking the two of them, but if we don't, we won't force it. However, Cui Li and I have to stay put for now. Why? Zhao Tailai was puzzled. They still don't know that Cui Li and I have become martial gods. If we all go out and the attack fails, won't Cui Li and my strength be exposed? I still want to give them a surprise. Taking a step back, If even you war gods failed, then there's not much point in having Cui Li and I on our side. Qin Feiyang said. That's true. Everyone nodded. Cui Li said with a smile. I'm afraid their little hearts won't be able to bear this surprise. Yeah. How long has it been since you broke through to the martial god realm? Such a ridiculous speed will probably make them collapse. The divine leopard said jokingly. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Get ready. The 6 people and the golden leopard looked at each other, and their auras erupted as they began to accumulate power. Chapter 1772. Cui Li glanced at Tang Hai's group and the golden leopard before looking at Qin Feiyang. Young master, I have a question that I've been wanting to ask you ever since you came out of seclusion. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback as he asked suspiciously, What is it? Cui Li looked at Zhuge Mingyang on the screen and asked, If Zhuge Mingyang didn't avoid the battle and fought with you head-on, do you have the confidence to defeat him now? Confidence? Qin Feiyang murmured as his face was brimming with confidence. He smiled and said, 100%. Cui Li also smiled. Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang didn't know that their young master had already stepped into the war god realm. They also didn't know that their young master's battle soul and the 6-word divine formula had undergone earth-shattering changes. This was really exciting. When Mu Tianyang and the others saw their young master's current strength and changes, how interesting would their expressions be? Rumble. The auras of the mysterious lady and the golden leopard were getting stronger and stronger. Heaven and earth trembled. Below, the 9 beast emperors guarding the herb field were all terrified. With so many war gods, what if they suddenly attacked them? Just thinking about it made their hair stand on end. At the same time, there was a trace of envy in their eyes towards the golden leopard. Thinking back to the past, the golden leopard was the same as them. They were both beast emperors of the demonic land, and weren't much stronger than them. However, after following Qin Feiyang, it stepped into the war god realm not long after. The difference between a war god and a false god was like heaven and earth. There was no comparison at all. Why didn't Zhao Tailai take a fancy to us back then? One of the beast emperors sighed. If Zhao Tailai had taken a fancy to them when he was looking for a mount, then the one standing with Qin Feiyang and the others wouldn't have been the golden leopard. This was fate. The golden leopard could only blame its good luck. It was destined to soar. Just as the 9 beast emperors were sighing, the auras of the mysterious woman and the golden leopard were about to reach their peak. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He controlled the black tortoise realm and silently flew towards Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang. Outside, Zhuge Mingyang quietly repaired his arm. However, his gaze was always on Mu Tianyang, Dong Jingyang, the Cerberus and Tan Wu. Mu Tianyang also stood to the side silent. No one knew what he was thinking at this moment. Tan Wu and the Hell God Hound retreated far away without batting an eyelid, maintaining a distance from Mu Tianyang and the other 2. As for Dong Jingyang, he was also silently repairing his energy reserve. That terrifying killing intent had also returned to his glabella. Anyway, at this moment, no one spoke. The entire vacuum zone fell into a deathly silence. Boom. But suddenly, several streaks of divine might emerged, breaking the silence. And Tan Wu, the Hell God Hound and Dong Jingyang were shocked. They hurriedly looked up and saw a few figures appear out of thin air above Zhuge Mingyang and Mu Tianyang. It's them. Mysterious Madam. Elder Qin. The 2 men and 1 beast were shocked. What shocked them even more was that these people had actually broken through to the war god realm. However, Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang did not panic at the sudden appearance of the mysterious madam and the others, as well as the golden leopard. It was as if they had already expected it. Swish! The next moment, the 2 of them instantly disappeared without a trace. Damn it! The mysterious madam was extremely angry. Although she had already mentally prepared herself in advance that the attack might not succeed, she still couldn't help but be annoyed at this moment. Zhao Tailai's divine sense emerged, locking onto the 2 spatial divine objects, and said in a deep voice, Tang Hai, quickly revive the divine artifact and see if you can force them out. After saying that, Zhao Tailai was the first to take out the rusty axe, rushed to Mu Tianyang's spatial divine object, and immediately hacked at it. Although this axe could not be revived, its sharpness was enough to tear the heavens and split the earth. At the same time, Tang Hai also took out his dagger, his divine power surging into it, bringing along a world-destroying divine might. He slashed towards Zhuge Mingyang's spatial divine object. You guys really don't give up. Suddenly, Mu Tianyang appeared in the air. Along with him were Mu Changyan and Mu Changfeng, as well as the Blood Blade. The divine power of the two, as well as Mu Tianyang's divine sense, poured into the Blood Blade, and the power of the heaven-defying divine artifact erupted. Zhao Tailai's expression changed, and he retreated without hesitation. Clang. At the same time, Tang Hai's blade slashed onto Zhuge Mingyang's spatial divine object, and a dazzling light immediately shot out from the void. However, the spatial divine object did not shatter, but Tang Hai's arm was numb from the shock. Boom. In the next moment, Zhuge Mingyang appeared, and the Bone Dragon Battle Soul roared in the sky, its innate ability covering all directions. Tang Hai's cultivation immediately began to plummet. If it's as young master expected, it's harder than ascending to the heavens to attack them. Tang Hai murmured, and retreated like lightning. Fortunately, Zhuge Mingyang's innate ability did not have the ability to bind, otherwise he would have suffered again. Zhuge Mingyang glanced at Tang Hai, then looked at Zhao Tailai and the others, as well as the golden divine leopard, and then looked at the void and sneered. Qin Feiyang, you're too naive to think of sneak attacking us. It's not naive, it's stupid. Everyone knows about the Black Tortoise realm. How could we not be prepared? Mu Tianyang snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang is also here? Dong Zhengyang, Tan Wu, and the Hell God Hound immediately released their divine sense to search for Qin Feiyang's whereabouts. But under their divine sense, they found nothing. What was going on? Even their divine sense could not find him? Zhuge Mingyang said. Come out, what's the point of hiding? Swoosh. Before he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang appeared beside the mysterious lady and the others. But he did not come out with them. His cultivation was also suppressed to the false god realm. He's really here? Dong Zhengyang was surprised. But why couldn't their divine sense find him? One should know that divine sense was everywhere. Even if Qin Feiyang was hiding in the ancient castle, he could not escape the divine sense's search. Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Tianyang and Tan Wu, and said, I'm not a demon, do you have to be so wary of me? Of course we have to be wary of you. Just like this time, if we weren't prepared, we would have been dead by now. Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly. Cut the crap. Zhuge Mingyang coldly shouted, staring at Qin Feiyang and said, Do you still remember what you used to say the most? What? Qin Feiyang was curious. If you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. Now that you've ambushed us, don't you have to pay the price? Zhuge Mingyang laughed. Is that so? It seems that after becoming a war god, your strength should have improved a lot. Otherwise you wouldn't be so arrogant. Qin Feiyang said. Zhuge Mingyang said. I don't know how much I've improved, but it's more than enough to kill a false god like you. More than enough, Qin Feiyang muttered. Suddenly, he took a step forward and entered the domain formed by Zhuge Mingyang's innate ability. What? Zhuge Mingyang was petrified on the spot. Mu Tianyang and the Mu brothers were also shocked. They had thought of 10,000 possibilities, but they never thought that Qin Feiyang would take the initiative to step into the domain. As soon as he entered the domain, Qin Feiyang's cultivation rapidly plummeted. 9-star War God Peak. 9-star War God. 8-star War God. 7-star War God. However, although his cultivation had fallen to 7-star War God, Qin Feiyang's expression did not change as he looked at Zhuge Mingyang calmly. What's going on? Why is he so calm? Zhuge Mingyang muttered. Mu Tianyang also looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. The two of them looked at Zhao Tailai and the others. They realized, whether it was Zhao Tailai, Tang Hai, or the mysterious madam and the others, there was no trace of worry on their faces. Moreover, they had no intention of saving Qin Feiyang, and stood there motionlessly. What's going on? These people are too calm. The two of them murmured. Could it be? The two of them had the same thought in their minds at the same time. Could it be that Qin Feiyang had obtained some heaven-defying fortune, or divine artifact on the second level of the divine ruins in the past 6 months? If it were someone else, they would have more or less suspected that they were pretending to be calm. But facing Qin Feiyang, they really did not have the guts to guess, because there were too many possibilities on Qin Feiyang. Although they had thought of many possibilities, they had never thought that Qin Feiyang had already stepped into the war god realm. Because in their opinion, this was simply impossible. Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed and he transmitted his voice. Zhuge Mingyang, it's too risky to fight with him now. Let's talk about it after we leave the divine ruins. You were really scared by him? Zhuge Mingyang snorted coldly. If you weren't scared by him, why didn't you make a move? Before you talk about me, you should consider yourself carefully. Mu Tianyang sneered inwardly and decisively put away his blood blade, and sent Mu Changfeng and Mu Tianyang into the spatial divine item. Emperor of the previous dynasty? What a joke. Zhuge Mingyang smiled disdainfully, and also recalled the Bone Dragon War Soul. After his innate ability disappeared, Qin Feiyang's cultivation returned to the false divinity realm. I've already taken the initiative to enter the domain, but you don't dare to make a move. How boring. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. He turned and walked toward Zhao Tailai and the others. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, Zhuge Mingyang was full of hostility. He stared at Qin Feiyang's back and muttered, "Continue to be arrogant. Sooner or later, I'll take your dog life." Amazing. Tan Wu sighed. He scared Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang just by standing there. I don't know about the others, but they're definitely stronger than you. The Hell Divine Hound transmitted his voice, his eyes full of contempt. Tan Wu's face darkened and said angrily, "If he's so powerful, why didn't you follow him back then?" Sigh. Isn't it because my eyes were covered by eye feces back then? Otherwise, why would I choose a trash like you? The Hell Divine Hound lamented. Your sister, am I that bad? Tan Wu said angrily. I'm not afraid of hurting you. You're worse than what I said. The Hell Divine Hound shook his head. Tan Wu's veins jumped and his face twitched uncontrollably. As expected, you're still the same as before. Your courage and boldness make people feel ashamed of their inferiority. I really don't want to be enemies with you. But there are some things that I can't decide. Dong Zhengyang looked at Qin Feiyang's back and couldn't help but admire him. But at the same time, there was a trace of helplessness and disappointment on his face. Chapter 1773. However, Qin Feiyang did not notice Dong Zhengyang's abnormality. He walked to the side of Zhao Tailai and the others, turned his head to look at the stone door leading to the outside, and gradually frowned. Since you don't plan to make a move, then open the passage. Mu Tianyang said. With a wave of his hand, 6 clusters of Dan fire appeared. Heat waves surged, and the vacuum area immediately became like a large furnace. Zhuge Mingyang also took out a Dan fire. This was the sky-profound flame that Qin Feiyang had given to Emperor Hong back then. Now, Emperor Hong was hiding in the spatial divine object to cultivate in seclusion, so he naturally handed it over to Zhuge Mingyang. The mysterious lady also took out a cluster of Dan fire. It was the heavenly dipper flame that Mu Tianyang had given to the chief pagoda master. As a result, there were 8 clusters of Dan fire, and only Qin Feiyang's heavenly thunder flame and frost flame were left. But Qin Feiyang did not take it out for a long time. Feiyang, what's wrong? The mysterious lady looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang shook his head. We can't leave yet because there's still one more person who hasn't arrived. Who? Everyone was suspicious. Fire Unicorn. Qin Feiyang said. When he first met the Fire Unicorn on the first floor, he originally wanted the Fire Unicorn to go with him. Moreover, it was a very sincere invitation. But in the end, the Fire Unicorn still rejected him on the grounds that something was summoning it. And even now he still didn't know where the Fire Unicorn was? Possible. This was not an excuse. Indeed, something was summoning the Fire Unicorn. But even so, Qin Feiyang was still very disappointed. Because every time he saw the Fire Unicorn, an indescribable emotion would rise in his heart. Fire Unicorn. The mysterious lady Yishu and Elder Qin looked at each other. If not for Qin Feiyang's reminder, they would have forgotten about the fire unicorn. Fire unicorn. At the same time, Tan Wu and the Hell God Hound looked at each other with a trace of hesitation in their eyes. The Hell God Hound sent a sound transmission. Trash, should we tell him? This. Tan Wu hesitated and did not speak. Back then, the Fire Qilin told us not to tell Qin Feiyang about its whereabouts, lest Qin Feiyang worry about it. But looking at Qin Feiyang's current state, he probably won't open the passage until the Fire Qilin appears. The infernal divine hound said. Maybe in Qin Feiyang's heart, the Fire Qilin is really important. Tan Wu sighed deeply and walked to the front of the stone door in large strides. Standing beside Qin Feiyang, he pretended to look at the stone door and secretly transmitted his voice to Qin Feiyang. No need to wait for the Fire Qilin. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He shot a glance at Tan Wu and thought to himself, could it be that you've seen it before? Yes, Tan Wu said. When did this happen? Qin Feiyang hurriedly asked. Counting carefully, it seems to have been 3 months ago. At that time, the dead dog and I were chased by the beasts on the first floor and fled into a desolate valley. We happened to meet it. It was also it who saved us. At that time, it was cultivating in seclusion. It was also because of its help that the infernal divine hound and I could step into the pseudo-god realm so quickly. Tan Wu transmitted his voice. 3 months ago? Qin Feiyang frowned. This happened when he was refining the soul stone and trying to break through to the war god realm. Qin Feiyang asked curiously, how did it help you? Inherited memories, Tan Wu said secretly. Inherited memories? Qin Feiyang was surprised. That's right. It obtained 3 inherited memories on the first floor. It asked for one for itself and gave the other 2 to me and the infernal divine hound. These 3 inherited memories all contain the complete mysteries of becoming a god. Tan Wu said secretly. His words were full of gratitude to the Fire Qilin. I see. Qin Feiyang was suddenly enlightened. In this world, there shouldn't be any pills that could speed up one's comprehension of the mysteries of becoming a god. Qin Feiyang, what do you mean? Could it be that you want us to accompany you here just to wait for the Fire Qilin? You have the mood, but we don't. Zhuge Mingyang said impatiently. Qin Feiyang ignored him and said secretly, then where is it now? After stepping into the pseudo-god realm, it was sent to the 2nd floor by the rule force. But before it left, it told me not to tell you its whereabouts. It didn't want you to worry. Tan Wu said. The 2nd floor, Qin Feiyang muttered. Tan Wu added. And it also said that it won't leave the miracle. If it doesn't leave the miracle, where does it want to go? Qin Feiyang frowned. Tan Wu smiled bitterly and said. I also asked it, but it didn't say. It only said that we'll meet again if fate allows. Qin Feiyang frowned. Could it be that the Fire Qilin had also entered the 3rd floor like the divine beast in the endless sea? Speaking of which, there's something I've been wondering about. Tan Wu suddenly transmitted his voice again. What is it? Qin Feiyang said. At that time, the Fire Qilin had just broken through to the pseudo-god realm and was sent to the 2nd floor by the rule force. But after the Hell God Hound and I broke through, the rule force didn't appear? Moreover, the griffin beast guarding the passage not only didn't stop us, it was even polite to me and the Hell God Hound. Tan Wu said. It's because of me. Qin Feiyang laughed secretly. You? Tan Wu was stunned. Yes. Actually, I've seen you and the Hell God Hound a long time ago. Qin Feiyang said. When? Tan Wu asked. Qin Feiyang said. It was when you took the divine pill and broke through to the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. Tan Wu was puzzled. Then why didn't you show up? Qin Feiyang said. I know your personality. Even if I showed up, you wouldn't follow me, so I didn't disturb you. So that's how it is. You really know me well. Tan Wu secretly smiled and said. Then what's with the rule force? Could it be that you can already control the rule force of the miracle? How could I have this ability? It's the guardian of the miracle. I'm on good terms with it. When I entered the 2nd floor, I begged it to secretly take care of you and the Hell God Hound, and Dong Zhengyang. As for the Fire Qilin, I didn't think of it at that time, so the guardian didn't take special care of it. Thus, it was sent to the second floor. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. So that's how it is. No wonder as soon as the dead dog and I appeared here, Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang asked me what my relationship with you was. Tan Wu secretly laughed then said, but this Dong Xingyang, I can't see through him. I can't see through him either. Qin Feiyang said. You don't even know whether he's a friend or a foe, and you're still helping him? Tan Wu was a little speechless. Originally, he thought that Qin Feiyang knew Dong Xingyang's background. Whether he's a friend or a foe in the future, I won't regret helping him, Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Then are we still waiting for the fire Qilin? Tan Wu asked. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and sighed. It has its own path to walk. I can't control it, nor do I have the qualifications to control it. Let's leave it to fate. After saying that, he took out the heavenly thunder flame and the ice flame. Seeing this, the mysterious lady asked suspiciously, aren't we waiting? No. Qin Feiyang smiled. Although he did not know where the fire Qilin was going, and although the second level was very dangerous, he believed that with the fire Qilin's ability, it would definitely survive. In the future, they would definitely meet again. Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang had been waiting impatiently for a long time. Seeing Qin Feiyang take out the heavenly thunder flame and the ice flame, they immediately brought their respective elixir fires to the stone door. The stone door exuded an ancient aura. Although it was not as grand as the stone door that appeared when they entered the divine site, there were also 10 palm-sized grooves on it. These grooves were used to inlay elixir fires. Qin Feiyang, the mysterious lady, Zhuge Mingyang, and Mu Tianyang looked at each other and raised their arms at the same time. 10 clusters of elixir fires rose into the air and merged into a groove. Buzz! The simple and unadorned stone door suddenly bloomed with colorful lights. A pitch-black passage gradually appeared. From a distance, it looked like a bottomless abyss, exuding a heart-palpitating aura. The mysterious lady said secretly, Feiyang, going out is the same as going in. There are space-time storms and all kinds of illusions. Remember not to retreat when you see illusions. Understood. Qin Feiyang nodded. The mysterious lady had said that if they ran away when they saw illusions, even with the protection of elixir fires, they would be obliterated by the space-time storms. Whoosh! As soon as the mysterious lady finished speaking, Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang withdrew their elixir fires and rushed into the stone door one after another, disappearing from the sight of Qin Feiyang and the others. The Cerberus was stunned. Are they in a hurry to be reincarnated? It's not an exaggeration to say that they are in a hurry to be reincarnated. Zhao Tailai sneered. The reason why they couldn't wait to leave was that they were afraid that Qin Feiyang would fight with them as soon as he went out. So, they had to leave the divine site before Qin Feiyang, so that they could have time to escape. Tang Hai suddenly said, Old Zhao, are you excited? Zhao Tailai was stunned and turned to look at Tang Hai. He saw Tang Hai staring at the stone door with joy in his eyes. We can finally leave the divine site. How can we not be excited? Zhao Tailai murmured. This emperor would like to see what kind of world it is outside. The golden leopard's eyes were also full of anticipation. Then let's go. The mysterious lady laughed. Qin Feiyang, wait. Suddenly, Dong Xingyang's voice sounded behind Qin Feiyang. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and turned to look at Dong Xingyang suspiciously. Dong Xingyang said, If you don't say something here, you won't have the chance to say it when you go out. Do you still remember what I said to you on the first floor? I remember. You told me to be careful of you. Qin Feiyang nodded. Yes. And now I will remind you again. In the future, don't turn your back to me, because I can stab you in the back at any time. Dong Xingyang said. Hearing these words, the mysterious lady, Zhao Tailai and the others raised their eyebrows. What did this person want to do? It didn't seem like he was hostile to Qin Feiyang. But if there was no hostility, then why did he suddenly say such words? However, Dong Xingyang did not explain and fell silent. Qin Feiyang looked deeply at Dong Xingyang and nodded. I will remember. Then, he looked up at the stone door leading to the second floor and murmured, Big cousin Chang Shui, wait for me, I will definitely come back to save you. With that, the group of people stepped into the stone door one after another with the pill fire. Chapter 1774. On the third floor of the divine site, inside a large hall, the golden small beast stood in the middle of the hall, looking at the image in front of it. The image was showing the scene of Qin Feiyang and the others leaving the divine site. They finally left. After being busy for so long, I can finally go and rest. However, I'm really looking forward to the scene of this kid coming back to settle accounts with me. After Qin Feiyang and the others entered the passage and the stone door closed, the golden small beast smiled and waved its little paw. The image in the air disappeared. Following that, it took a step forward and left the palace, appearing in the sky above a vast mountain range. However, the mountain range within a radius of tens of thousands of miles was broken and ravines were everywhere. The air was filled with a tragic atmosphere, as well as a monstrous rage. "Bastard, I'm going to kill you!" A young man covered in blood roared out from a crack that was hundreds of feet wide, and crazily charged into the sky. There was a divine dragon there. It was about 2 meters long and stood in the air with an arrogant look on its face. That's right. It was the ice dragon. And that young man was Qin Feiyang's cousin Lu Jiajin. Boom. Lu Jiajin pounced forward. "Kid, with your strength, it's far from enough to kill me." The ice dragon god's face was full of contempt. With a light wave of its dragon claw, Lu Jiajin was sent flying and smashed into the ground again. All the bones in his body were about to fall apart. Blood dyed the sky red. "I want to go back, I want to go back. You bastard, why did you leave me here?" Lu Jiajin was furious. "Didn't I say it before? I left you here because I took a fancy to you. You should feel honored that I took a fancy to you. If it were me, I would have knelt on the ground and respectfully called you master." The ice dragon said. "Don't even think about it. Even if I die, I won't acknowledge you as my master. However, if you're willing to be my mount, I can consider it." Lu Jiajin laughed. "Mount." Ice dragon was stunned. The golden small beast was also astonished. Did this brat even understand the situation? With that little bit of strength of his, he dared to spout such arrogant words? However, he had quite the character. The small beast smiled and looked at the ice dragon. "Grandpa Frog is going back. What about you? You can go back. This emperor will stay here for the time being and teach this impudent brat a lesson." Ice dragon grinned. "Then don't kill him," the golden small beast said. "Don't worry. He won't have the chance to die even if he wants to." Ice dragon smirked. The small beast looked at Lu Jiajin and shook its head. What a pitiful child. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared without a trace. The ice dragon withdrew its gaze and lowered its head to look at Lu Jiajin. "Brat, you've got guts. How dare you make me your mount? It's your honor to be my mount," Lu Jiajin said. "Honor? Haha." Ice dragon laughed and said, "Boy, have you tasted hellish torture? This emperor will let you have a taste now." Boom. In an instant, Ice Dragon landed in front of Lu Jiajin and whipped Lu Jiajin's body with its tail. Lu Jiajin's skin was instantly lacerated and blood flowed out. However, he didn't even let out a groan. His expression was filled with an unruly smile. Forgotten Continent, Central Divine Kingdom. Pill Pagoda Square, above the sky. A stone door that was 999 feet tall, completely black, emitting a mysterious and ancient aura. It was like a towering mountain that stood in the void, shaking the world. That's right. This was the door to the divine ruins. All these years, although the door to the divine ruins had been closed, it had not disappeared and had always existed. At first, whether it was the people of the Central Divine Kingdom, or the people of the imperial capital, they would all come and take a few curious glances. But as time passed, everyone slowly got used to it. Even if they passed by the door, they wouldn't care. In the sky was clear, the wind was gentle, and the sun was bright. People were still doing what they were supposed to do as usual. The square of the Pill Pagoda was also the same as usual. The disciples of the Pill Pagoda came and went in a hurry. It looked very peaceful. Clang. Suddenly, another loud explosion sounded like thunder. Not only did it resound in the sky above the central divine kingdom, but it also spread through the space-time door into the sky above the imperial capital. Countless people's ears were ringing and their blood was boiling. In an instant, the people in the two places were in an uproar, and the people in the square of the Pill Pagoda had their eardrums torn and blood spurted out. What's going on? Everyone was shocked and looked in the direction of the sound. They found that the loud sound came from the door of the divine ruins. Why did the door of the divine ruins suddenly make a sound? Could it be the people who entered the divine ruins are coming out? Whoosh! Accompanied by the sound of something breaking through the air, figures continued to soar into the sky and looked at the door of the divine ruins. A large number of people also came from the imperial capital. There were Marquis and their children. There were people from the treasure pavilion. There were elders from the divine palace. There were law enforcers from the outer hall and the inner hall. There were also a large number of disciples from the divine palace. There were naturally many people from the main pagoda. For example, the pagoda masters and peak masters, including Wang Yuer's parents, and the Mu family. Everyone surrounded the square of the Pill Pagoda and stared at the door of the divine ruins. It was rumored throughout history, there were only a handful of people who could come out of the divine ruins alive. They all wanted to know who came back alive. Get out of the way. Suddenly, a shout sounded. A purple-clothed young man rushed out of the crowd and stood not far from the door of the divine ruins. This person was young Master Hao. A few years had passed and his cultivation was still at the war saint level. It could be said that, compared with the growth of Qin Feiyang and the others over the years, it was not worth mentioning at all. But there was no other way. Without opening the door of potential, no matter how good one's talent was, it would take a few years, or even decades or centuries to break through a small realm. Father, you will definitely come back alive. Young Master Hao stared at the door of the divine ruins and muttered to himself. But gradually, a figure appeared in his mind. Immediately, his hands could not help but clench tightly, and his eyes were full of hatred. The person that appeared in his mind was none other than Qin Feiyang. Clang! A loud noise sounded again. The door of the divine ruins finally opened slowly. A mighty aura roared out from the door. No one could withstand this aura. It was like the power of heaven. Everyone retreated in horror, but their eyes never left the door of the divine ruins, as if they were afraid of missing something. Whoosh! Suddenly, a golden figure rushed out from the door of the divine ruins like lightning. He was wearing a golden dragon robe, and his aura was terrifying to the extreme. However, their faces were blurry. That's right. He was Mu Tianyang. Who is he? But the people present had never seen this emperor of the previous dynasty. Moreover, Mu Tianyang had no face now. So when they saw Mu Tianyang appear, their faces were full of surprise. It seems that in their memory, among the people who entered the divine ruins, there was no such person. As soon as Mu Tianyang appeared, he glanced at the crowd around him. Without saying a word, he shouted, "Where is the lord of the Mu clan?" Whoosh! A middle-aged man rushed out of the crowd and landed in front of Mu Tianyang. He asked suspiciously, "Who are you?" "This person is Mu Qing's father. Although I haven't condensed my facial features yet, but looking at my dress, you should know who I am, right?" Mu Tianyang said angrily. The lord of the Mu clan was stunned and looked at Mu Tianyang. His face suddenly changed and he said in surprise, "Greetings." Mu Tianyang waved his hand to stop him and said, "Before I left, have you done what I told you? All the clansmen are ready. Treasures and so on have been packed." The lord of the Mu clan said respectfully, "Very good. Everyone in the Mu clan, listen to my order, return to the clan immediately." Mu Tianyang roared and immediately opened the portal, and rushed in without looking back. The lord of the Mu clan also hurriedly followed. The other Mu clan members hidden in the crowd also opened the portal and left. It's too late to say. Zhuge Mingyang also rushed out of the divine ruins after Mu Tianyang. He is Zhuge Mingyang. How did his appearance change? Gray hair, gray pupils. Yi Futian muttered to himself. If it weren't for his face, I wouldn't have recognized him. Zhuge Mingyang, the people present basically know him. Seeing him come out, everyone was talking about him. This Zhuge Mingyang is really lucky he can come out of the divine ruins alive. And looking at his aura, it's much stronger than before. The people in the imperial capital were particularly excited, because they still don't know Zhuge Mingyang's ambition. In their eyes, Zhuge Mingyang is a rare talent of the Great Qin, and the next successor to the position of Zhuge Wuhou. After Zhuge Mingyang came out, he glanced at Mu Tianyang's back. Without any delay, he immediately rushed towards the space-time gate. Over the years, the portal has been connecting the imperial capital and the central divine kingdom. Zhuge Mingyang, where is the state preceptor and Emperor Hong? A group of marquis surrounded and asked. They are all in my space divine object. Zhuge Mingyang said. Great. Hearing this, not only the marquis, but all the people of the Great Qin couldn't help but cheer. However, Zhuge Mingyang's expression was extremely hazy, and he entered the portal without looking back. What's the situation? The person before, as soon as he appeared, he took the Mu clan away. Now this Zhuge Mingyang is the same. Why do I feel that the atmosphere is a bit strange? Someone muttered. Father, come out quickly. Young Master Hao stared at the door of the divine ruins, his brows full of worry. Where are the others? Could it be that only that person from the Mu clan, Zhuge Mingyang, state preceptor, and Emperor Hong are alive? Everyone looked at the door of the temple, and seeing that no one appeared for a long time, they couldn't help but start to mutter in their hearts. The people of the main tower were especially nervous, because until now, they hadn't seen anyone from the main tower come out. Haven't you forgotten about someone? Suddenly someone said. Who? Everyone was suspicious. Qin Feiyang. That person said word by word. As soon as these 3 words came out, the entire Pill Pagoda Square instantly fell into a dead silence. Genius remembered the address of this site in a second. Top Point mobile version reading website. Chapter 1775. The name Qin Feiyang was like a taboo existence, causing people to tremble in fear. It's best if he doesn't come back. That's right. Once this fiend returns, the Forgotten Continent and the Great Qin Empire will definitely be in chaos again. I really hope that he can die in the miracle and never appear again. People discussed in low voices. Grandfather, they haven't come out yet. Are they really dead? In the crowd, a tall woman in white with black hair like a waterfall looked at a white-haired old man next to her and asked. Don't worry, everyone will die, but Qin Feiyang won't die. The white-haired old man smiled. These 2 people were Li He and Li Yan. Li He was already the deputy pavilion master of the trading pavilion, and could be considered a big shot in the Forgotten Continent. As for Li Yan, as Li He's granddaughter and a disciple of the main tower, her status was naturally not comparable to ordinary people. Li Yan heard Li He's words and said unhappily, Who cares about Qin Feiyang? I'm asking him. Him. Li He was slightly stunned and said helplessly, Yenner, there are so many young talents in the world. Of all the young talents in the world, why do you have to like that damn fatso? How can you say that about him? Although he's a little fat, he has a good heart. Back then, when you were plotted against by Fu Anshan and the leader of the Divine Python tribe, I was heartbroken and almost wanted to die. He was always with me and comforted me. Li Yan said unhappily. Yes. Grandfather was wrong. As long as my granddaughter likes him, as long as he treats my granddaughter well, I don't care if he's fat or ugly, I can put up with it. Li He hurriedly smiled apologetically. Put up with it? Li Yan was speechless. Father, come out quickly. Young Master Hao stared at the door of the miracle, his eyes full of anxiety. No one has come out after so long. It seems that only Zhuge Mingyang and the others are still alive. How terrifying. The main tower master, the mysterious madam, Wang Su Gongsun Bei, Qin Feiyang, which one of them isn't a terrifying figure? In the end, they were all buried in the miracle. What kind of place is this miracle? People sighed. The death of the chief tower master and the others is indeed regrettable. But Qin Feiyang, that unlucky star, his death is not to be regretted. Someone snorted. Really? Suddenly, a calm voice came from the door of the divine ruins. This voice, Everyone's eyes trembled. The killing intent in young Master Hao's eyes burst out. On the other hand, Li He and Li Yan's faces lit up with joy. That was because they were all too familiar with this voice. It was none other than the fiend everyone was talking about, Qin Feiyang. Before he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang's group flew out of the Divine Sight's gate and appeared in front of everyone. Not dead. Good people don't live long, but disasters live for 1,000 years. This saying is indeed true. Young Master Hao roared in his mind. It's them. When the pagoda masters and peak masters of the main pagoda saw the hook-nosed old man and the monkey-faced old man, they were ecstatic. A group of people immediately flew over. But in the next moment, they abruptly braked and stopped in the void. They stared at the mysterious lady, their faces full of disbelief. Wang Yuer's parents were the same. That face. Young Master Hao also noticed the mysterious lady, and his eyes suddenly widened. Young Master Hao, Wang Yuer's parents, as well as the peak masters and pagoda masters, had all been to the land of inheritance of the main pagoda. Therefore, they all knew about the statues in the land of inheritance. And the woman in front of them looked exactly the same as the previous pagoda master. What was going on? Didn't she die 10,000 years ago? Was it purely a coincidence that the two of them looked the same? Yishu. The giants of the main pagoda also noticed Yishu next to the mysterious lady, and their eyes immediately filled with killing intent. Because in their eyes, Yishu was still a traitor. Is this the outside world? The golden leopard was not in the mood to pay attention to these people. He looked around curiously. Zhao Tailai and Tang Hai were also extremely excited. Elder Qin, that traitor, really followed Qin Feiyang. At the same time, the people in the capital also looked coldly at Elder Qin, who was standing next to Qin Feiyang. Boom. But suddenly, a pseudo-god's power, like a volcanic eruption, shrouded all directions. Everyone present suddenly felt as if they had fallen into a 10,000-year-old ice cellar, and their whole body was cold. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang, and they were all silent. Qin Feiyang said, "I've really disappointed you. Not only did I not die, but I also broke through to the pseudo-god realm." Pseudo-god. Everyone's body and mind trembled, especially young Master Hao. In the divine ruins, pseudo-gods were nothing. But in the Forgotten Continent and the Great Qin Empire, pseudo-gods were comparable to gods. Brother Qin, congratulations, congratulations. Suddenly, a laugh sounded. A young man in purple walked out of the crowd. He was about 1.8 meters tall, and his figure was tall. His black hair was like a waterfall, and his temperament was extraordinary. Those two deep eyes were like two stars. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "So it's Brother Pei. It's been many years since we last met. How have you been?" That's right. This person was Pei Yi. He was also the current leader of the Divine Python tribe. He was a man that Qin Feiyang admired very much. Pei Yi shook his head and said with a smile, "I'm still the same. You, on the other hand, are so powerful that others can only look up to you. Brother Pei, you are very talented. Sooner or later, you will also take this step." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Pei Yi's talent was very terrifying. He was even better than young Master Hao. And back then, he also gave Pei Yi potential pills, and small creation pills, which could open the door of potential. It could be said that this person's future achievements were limitless. "I'm very talented?" Pei Yi smiled bitterly. Compared with ordinary people, he was indeed a genius. But compared with a monster like Qin Feiyang, he was no different from a fool. Shaking his head, Pei Yi said with a smile, "We haven't seen each other for a long time. Brother Qin, why don't we go out for a gathering?" "I'm afraid not now." Qin Feiyang shook his head and asked, "Have you seen Zhuge Mingyang and Mu Tianyang?" "I've seen Zhuge Mingyang but Mu Tianyang." Pei Yi frowned. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and condensed Mu Tianyang's shadow. "So it's him." Pei Yi was suddenly enlightened. "Mu Tianyang? Qin Feiyang? Don't tell me he's the former emperor, Mu Tianyang." No. The former emperor has already died in the hands of the former emperor. How could it be him?" The people in Beijing immediately got into an uproar. Qin Feiyang was not in the mood to explain, Nor did he have the time to do so. He looked at Pei Yi and asked, "Where did they go?" As soon as Mu Tianyang came out, he brought the Mu family back to the Mu family home. Zhuge Mingyang also went back to the Great Qin Empire. Pei Yi said. Qin Feiyang asked, "Did they say anything before they left?" Pei Yi said, "Zhuge Mingyang didn't say anything, but Mu Tianyang did ask Master Mu a question." "What question?" Qin Feiyang asked. He asked Master Mu if he had done what he asked him to do before he left. Master Mu's answer was that everyone in the Mu family was ready, and the Mu family's treasures were also packed. Pei Yi said, "Feiyang, the situation is not good. This Mu Tianyang must have been planning this even before he entered the divine sight." Mysterious Madam said in a deep voice. "Packing the treasures? Feiyang, it seems that as you expected, Mu Tianyang is going to escape." Old Qin said. "Then let him escape slowly. Great-grandmother, take Yi Shu and the others and go to the Mu family immediately to find out what happened. Remember, don't do anything if you're not sure." Old Qin, Old Zhao, Old Tang, Junior Leopard, follow me back to the Great Qin Empire. Qin Feiyang shouted, his body full of murderous intent. Okay. The three people and one beast nodded. Seeing Qin Feiyang was about to leave, Li Yan ran out of the crowd and asked, "Qin Feiyang, where's Fatso?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and turned to look at Li Yan. The first person this little girl asked was actually Fatso? Fatso is really something. He actually took Li He's granddaughter away without anyone noticing. Li He also ran out and looked at Qin Feiyang smiling. "Brother Qin, how have you been?" Qin Feiyang looked at the grandfather and grandson and said, "Let's talk when we have time." After that, he took the three people and the golden leopard to the space-time gate. What's with this guy's attitude? Li Yan was dissatisfied. The situation is really not good. Li He murmured. Whether it was experience, Li He was much better than Li Yan. Before, Zhuge Mingyang and Mu Tianyang left without saying a word, and now Qin Feiyang and the others were also full of a murderous aura. It seemed that something big would happen soon. The space-time gate will be closed soon. All the people of Great Qin, go back quickly. But just as Qin Feiyang and the others were about to enter the space-time gate, accompanied by a cold shout, a figure suddenly blocked in front of them. It's the snow python. Let's go. Seeing this, the people of Great Qin immediately swarmed toward the space-time gate. Powerhouse, Zhao Tailai, Tang Hai, and the golden leopard. As soon as they saw the snow python, they immediately became vigilant. Qin Feiyang and Old Qin's pupils suddenly shrank. They had long known about the existence of the snow python. They also knew how powerful the snow python was. And now, they had also broken through to the war god realm. But at this moment, they were shocked to find that they couldn't see through the snow python's cultivation. This was hard for them to accept. Could it be that this snow python was a lesser war god? Or even a greater war god? "Greetings, senior." Qin Feiyang bowed. "Not bad, you have already stepped into the false god realm. Coincidentally, I have something to talk to you about. Accompany me to the glacier forest." The snow python laughed. "Go to the glacier forest?" Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "Senior, I have something urgent to deal with now. Can we talk about it another day?" "No." The snow python shook its head. Qin Feiyang immediately became angry. Zhao Tailai asked, "Young master, where is the glacier forest?" Qin Feiyang thought. The glacier forest is the nest of the snow python. It is in the first region of the Forgotten Continent, very far from here. What does she mean? I already told her that we have something urgent. Why is she still stopping us? Zhao Tailai didn't understand. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Pinnacle mobile reading website. Chapter 1776. At the same time, the mysterious lady, Yi Shu, the hook-nosed old man, and the monkey-faced old man were also suspicious of the snow python. Ancestors, where's my father? Also, why are you with them? Young Master Hao suddenly ran in front of the hook-nosed old man and the monkey-faced old man and asked, "Shut up." The hook-nosed old man and the monkey-faced old man glared at him. Can't you see that the current situation is not right? Why are you still asking questions? Young master Hao's body stiffened. What's going on? Why are the two ancestors' attitudes towards me different from before? Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and suppressed the irritation in his heart. Senior, I really have an urgent matter. No matter how urgent it is, you have to come with me first, the snow python said. Its tone was as if it was ordering Qin Feiyang, and it couldn't be disobeyed. Old Qin said, Feiyang, what should we do? Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered as he looked at the snow python and smiled. How about this? I'll go with you and let old Qin and the others return to the Great Qin Empire first. The snow python shook its head. No, they also want to go to the glacier forest with me. What? Qin Feiyang was instantly enraged. What is this beast trying to do? The mysterious lady raised her eyebrows. Yishu, the hook-nosed old man, and the monkey-faced old man also frowned. Just as Qin Feiyang and the snow python were in a stalemate, the people of the Great Qin Empire had mostly returned. Only a dozen people were left. And among these people, there was an old man that Qin Feiyang was familiar with. This person was the manager of the Precious Treasure Pavilion, Sun Dahai. Qin Feiyang, the situation of the Great Qin Empire has changed. The commander of the Kirin army has betrayed us. Marquis Xiao has been killed. Zhuge Shenfeng has broken out of the seal. Your disciples Wang Xiaojie, Ren Wushuang, Yin Nanshan, and Old Man Ren have also been captured by Zhuge Shenfeng. Hurry back. When Sun Dahai passed by Qin Feiyang, he secretly transmitted his voice to him. What? Qin Feiyang's gaze trembled as he hurriedly raised his head to look at Sun Dahai. However, Sun Dahai had already followed the crowd into the gate of space-time. Is this true? How could the commander of the Kirin army betray them? Old Man Qin, Zhao Tailai, Tang Hai, Golden Panther, even if you have to die, you must hold back the snow python for me. Qin Feiyang suddenly let out a roar as he unleashed the attainment formula. He leaped over the snow python and rushed toward the space-time gate. What's the situation? Old Qin, Old Man Qin, and the Golden Divine Leopard were stunned. The mysterious Madam, Yishu, the hook-nosed old man, and the monkey-faced old man also looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. How dare you? The snow python did not expect that Qin Feiyang would disobey her order. What was even more unexpected was that Qin Feiyang's speed was so fast. Following her low shout, the space-time door closed with a loud bang. The space-time door had already recognized her as its master. She could close it with just a thought. No matter how fast Qin Feiyang was, he would not be able to catch up with her. Looking at the space-time door that closed, Qin Feiyang's anger suddenly became uncontrollable. Whoosh! He turned his head and stared at the snow python. Murderous intent flashed in his eyes as he said, What do you mean by this? I just asked you to come with me. Why are you so stubborn? Do you know? The price of angering me is very heavy, the snow python said. Qin Feiyang said coldly, The price of angering me is not small either. Is that so? The snow python smiled coldly. Boom. Old Man Qin, Tang Hai, Zhao Tailai, and the Golden Panther looked at each other. Their auras suddenly exploded as they charged toward the snow python. A bunch of ants, how dare you be so presumptuous? The snow python's expression was full of contempt as her divine power surged out. Ah! Old Man Qin, Tang Hai, and the Golden Panther were instantly crippled. They crashed into the square below like meteorites. So strong? Qin Feiyang's heart was in turmoil. The mysterious lady and Yishu were also dumbfounded. 3 gods of war and a divine beast were instantly crippled? You forced me to make a move. The snow python snorted and looked at Qin Feiyang. Actually, you don't have to do this. I mean you no harm. What I want to tell you is about Qin Yuan. Uncle Yuan. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. The snow python's divine power surged, and the space-time door opened again. And it easily revived the space-time door. After the space-time door opened, the snow python retreated to the side and looked at Qin Feiyang. Don't force me to make a move. Let's go. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands and swooped down, sending Old Man Qin, Tang Hai, and the Golden Panther to the Black Tortoise world. Then, he soared into the sky, looked at the snow python deeply, and entered the space-time door. The snow python looked at the mysterious lady and Yishu. The four of you come with me. We're going too. The four of them raised their eyebrows. Yes. The snow python nodded. The four of them looked at each other and had no choice but to enter the space-time door. The snow python also rushed into the space-time door. Boom. Soon. The space-time door disappeared in the void. What's going on? Everyone looked at each other. The clouds are rising and the sun is sinking. A storm is coming. This is the omen of a great calamity. Pei walked to Li He's side and sighed. Li He turned to look at Pei and said, "Do you know something?" "I don't know. But I have a hunch that a great calamity is coming. When the time comes, people will be plunged into misery and suffering." Pei said. "Great calamity," Li He murmured. Above the glacier forest, Qin Feiyang and the others appeared one after another. The snow python put away the space-time door and glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others. Finally, its gaze fell on Qin Feiyang and said with a faint smile, "Kid, do you think you can fool everyone by hiding your cultivation?" Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. "I remember when you entered the divine sight, you were just a small combat emperor. I didn't expect you to be a combat immortal now. Seems like you've gained a lot in the divine sight," the snow python said. Qin Feiyang was shocked. It could see through his hidden cultivation at a glance. How strong was this snow python? "You must be thinking about my cultivation right now. I might as well tell you the truth. My cultivation is a half-step divine lord. 4 combat immortals like you who have just become combat immortals, I only need to move my fingers to get rid of you," the snow python said in disdain. "Half-step divine lord?" Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other with suspicion. "After going to the divine sight, I believe you already know that combat immortals are not the end," the snow python said. Qin Feiyang and the others nodded. Divine Lord is above combat immortals. Combat immortals are divided into 5 stages: initial, phenomenal, perfected and perfected. Above combat immortals is Divine Lord. But between perfected combat immortals and divine lords, there is another stage, which is the half-step divine lord. In short, those who have surpassed perfected combat immortals, but have yet to become divine lords are half-step divine lords, the snow python said. "In other words, you're only half a step away from becoming a real divine lord?" Qin Feiyang frowned and said. "Yes. Now tell me, facing a half-step divine lord, is there any use in resisting?" the snow python joked. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other. They didn't expect the snow python to be so strong. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, "You said you wanted to tell me about Uncle Yuan. What is it?" "Qin Yuan is not as simple as you think," the snow python sighed. "Don't talk nonsense. I already know this," Qin Feiyang said. The snow python said, "How rude. Then do you know who Qin Yuan's master is?" "What? Uncle Yuan has a master?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. "Yes. His master is the demon ancestor," the snow python said. "The demon ancestor?" The eyes of the mysterious lady and Yishu trembled. How is this possible? How could Qin Yuan be the demon ancestor's man? Qin Feiyang also trembled when he heard this. He said angrily, "Don't talk nonsense and slander Uncle Yuan. You're not surprised at all when you hear the name Demon Ancestor. It seems that you know the Demon Ancestor very well. Well, I don't have to explain." The snow python smiled. It looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Your ancestor Qin Batian sealed the Demon Ancestor's divine body in the god's relic. Only those who possess the purple gold dragon blood, the purple gold dragon soul, and the dragon's energy can undo the seal. You know all this?" Yishu was shocked. "It's not a big deal. Is it strange that I know?" the snow python asked. Yishu was silent. Qin Feiyang looked at the snow python and said, "Go on." Although the demon ancestor's divine body was sealed, his remnant soul escaped. In order to unlock the seal and take back the divine body, the demon ancestor arranged for Qin Yuan to get close to you and train you. He wanted you to grow up quickly, so that you could enter the divine relic and help unlock the seal, the snow python said. "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang murmured and shook his head. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Uncle Yuan is not such a person. Actually, I can understand how you feel now. After all, Qin Yuan has been taking care of you since you were young. You see him as family. But this is the truth. You have to accept it even if you don't want to. The snow python shouted. No, it's not like that. You must be lying to me. You're trying to sow discord between me and Uncle Yuan. Tell me, what are your intentions? Qin Feiyang roared. Sigh. The snow python sighed deeply and said, I have no enmity with you. Do I need to sow discord between you? Impossible. Qin Feiyang shook his head frantically. Feiyang, calm down. The mysterious lady quickly comforted and looked at the snow python. Since you even know Qin Yuan's identity, then you should also know why his father crippled his cultivation and expelled him from the imperial capital. I know. But there are some things that he needs to find the answer for himself. The snow python said lightly. The mysterious lady said angrily. Let him find the answer for himself. Don't you think this is ridiculous? That's right. You told him about Qin Yuan, but you didn't tell him why his father crippled him. How do you expect us to believe you? Yishu snorted coldly. Believe it or not, in short. Speaking of which, the snow python suddenly raised its eyebrows. The next moment, it disappeared without a trace. The mysterious lady Yishu and the other two scanned their surroundings in bewilderment. What's going on? Why would he suddenly disappear without any reason? After coming back to their senses, the four of them released their divine sense and spread it in all directions. But after searching the entire glacier forest, they didn't find any trace of the snow python, nor did they find anything like a spatial divine object. Genius remembered the address of this site in 1 second. Apex mobile version reading website. Chapter 1777. In the sky above a vast mountain. The snow python glanced around, its eyes rather hazy. The grudge between you and me should be settled by you and me. Why do you have to involve the younger generation? Suddenly, a faintly discernible voice reverberated through the void. A white-haired old man appeared in front of the snow python out of thin air. His white clothes fluttered, his white hair fluttered, and his whole body exuded an otherworldly temperament. He did not reveal the slightest bit of aura, just like an ordinary old man. But as he stood there, the surrounding void was constantly twisting, as if it could not bear his existence. If Qin Feiyang was here, he would definitely recognize him at a glance. It was Uncle Yuan. The snow python looked at Qin Yuan and snorted coldly. I knew it was you, old bastard. When did you come? Qin Yuan said lightly. When the miracle started, this old man came. The snow python said. So you're saying that you heard everything I said to Qin Feiyang? Yes. Qin Yuan nodded. The snow python said angrily. Then why didn't you stop me? There's no need. Because I know Feiyang will believe me. Qin Yuan shook his head. Is that so? I advise you not to have too much hope. The snow python sneered. Then let's wait and see. Qin Yuan waved his hand, and an image immediately appeared in the void in front of him. The image showed Qin Feiyang and the others. Qin Feiyang lowered his head, his eyes full of pain. He seemed to be struggling mentally. Should he believe the snow python's words? The mysterious Madame, Yishu, and the other two stood at the side, looking at him worriedly. After a long time, the mysterious lady sighed, walked to Qin Feiyang's side and said, Feiyang, although I don't know what kind of person Qin Yuan is, you have to trust your own judgment and follow your heart. Qin Feiyang was still silent. Yishu glanced at Qin Feiyang, then looked at the mysterious lady and said, It seems that this matter has a big impact on him. This kind of thing, if it was anyone else, they would find it hard to accept. The mysterious lady said faintly, Above the mountains and rivers. The snow python sneered. Old man, did you see that? If he really believed you, why would he hesitate for so long? Let's wait and see. Qin Yuan chuckled. As soon as Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he suddenly lifted his head and scanned the surrounding void. The pain and struggle in his eyes were completely gone. Feiyang you, the mysterious Madame Yishu, and the other two stared at Qin Feiyang in astonishment. Qin Feiyang said, It hasn't appeared yet. This snow python must have encountered some difficulties. The mysterious madam said. Let's not talk about this first. Just now I was just pretending. Actually, I didn't believe her at all. Qin Feiyang sneered. Faking it? The four of them looked at each other. That's right. Even if Uncle Yuan is one of the demon ancestors' people, she didn't have to bring us to the glacier forest. She could have just said it in the central divine kingdom. If I'm not wrong, she should be buying time for Mu Tianyang and Zhuge Mingyang. Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. Buying time? You mean that she's in cahoots with Mu Tianyang and the others? The mysterious madam was surprised. I'm not sure about that. Maybe. She has nothing to do with Mu Tianyang and the others. She just wants to achieve her own goal, so she helped them. But what I'm sure of is that there must be some kind of grudge between her and Uncle Yuan. She wants to use me to make me and Uncle Yuan kill each other. Qin Feiyang pondered. Above the mountains and rivers. Damn it, damn it. When the snow python heard Qin Feiyang's words, it was furious. Its eyes were full of anger. Qin Yuan retracted his gaze and looked at the snow python. Now you understand. Feiyang isn't that easy to be used by you. Then I'll kill him. The snow python said angrily. With me here, you won't have a chance. I believe you also know that if the two of us fight, it will only end in a lose-lose situation. How about this? You stay here with me and watch them quietly. Besides, you've already bought enough time for Mu Tianyang and the demon ancestor to escape. It's time to stop. Qin Yuan smiled. The snow python said disdainfully. They're just two pieces of trash. If it wasn't for their value, why would I help them? I don't care if you help them, but you can't do it. Qin Yuan said. The snow python stared at Qin Yuan and asked. What about you? If Qin Feiyang is defeated by Mu Tianyang and the demon ancestor, won't you interfere? Of course. This has been the rule since ancient times. As guardians, we're not allowed to intervene in worldly affairs. Qin Yuan nodded. Guardians. Humph. Although we're called guardians, we're actually dogs guarding this continent. I'm not convinced. Look at the guardians of the miracle. They can control rule force, but what about us? We have nothing. If it's possible, I don't want to be a bullshit guardian. The snow python said angrily. It's already destined. What's the use of complaining? Besides, no one forced you. You're the one who wanted to do it. Qin Yuan said. That's why I regret it. Forget it. Let's not talk about these things. All right. I'll do as you wish and not interfere. I'd like to see exactly how capable Qin Feiyang, whom you've personally nurtured, is. The snow python snorted. That's good. Qin Yuan's face immediately revealed a smile. Glacier Forest. Qin Feiyang asked, Great-grandmother, do you know the snow python's background? I don't know. I only know that she already existed when I was born. Furthermore, even my father and the first head pagoda master were extremely afraid of her. The mysterious lady shook her head. Qin Feiyang said. No wonder her cultivation is so terrifying. She's an old monster. Yi Shu said. Feiyang, let's not worry about the snow python for now. Hurry and find Mu Tianyang. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. No, I have to return to the imperial capital now. Return to the imperial capital now? Yi Shu was doubtful. Feiyang, isn't our plan to take them down one by one? Now that we're in the forgotten continent, we should first take care of Mu Tianyang, then go to the imperial capital together, and take care of Zhuge Mingyang and the others. The hook-nosed old man and the monkey-faced old man said. The situation in the imperial capital is on the right. Sun Dahai told me that the commander of the Kirin army betrayed them. Zhuge Shenfeng escaped and many people were captured. I have to go back and investigate. Qin Feiyang said. The commander of the Kirin army betrayed them? How is this possible? I've also heard of this person. Isn't his relationship with you very good? The mysterious lady was surprised. I don't want to believe it, but Sun Dahai is the steward of the general pavilion. There's no need to lie to me. Anyway, I'll go back now. You guys go to the Mu family and see the situation. Qin Feiyang said. Okay. The four nodded. Wait. Did you see Tan Wu Dongjingyang and the Cerberus just now? Qin Feiyang suddenly said. Huh? The mysterious lady was stunned and shook her head. Just now in the Central Divine Kingdom, I've been paying attention to you and the snow python. I didn't pay attention to them. I noticed them. When the snow python appeared, they split up and left. The monkey-faced old man said. Left? Qin Feiyang frowned. Little cousin, don't worry about them. Go back. Lu Zheng's anxious voice suddenly sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. Zhuge Shunfeng was frozen in the ancient tower. And the ancient tower, Qin Feiyang handed it over to Old Man Ren before leaving. Old Man Ren was settled in the Lu family. Now, Zhuge Shunfeng was free, and the Lu family must have changed. Got it. Qin Feiyang secretly agreed. He looked at the mysterious madam and the other three and cupped his hands. Take care. You be careful too. The four reminded him. Qin Feiyang took a step and landed over a frozen lake, then went directly into the secret room at the bottom of the lake, opened the bloody altar, and left. The monkey-faced old man suddenly patted his head and said, I forgot one thing. What? The mysterious lady Yi Shu and the aquiline-nosed old man looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang took my divine bow. I wanted to wait until I came out and discuss with him whether he could return it to me. But after the snow python, I forgot about it. The monkey-faced old man said angrily. The mysterious lady shook her head and smiled. Now that we are family, is there a need to ask for it back? The monkey-faced old man frowned. But. Okay, after we get rid of Mu Tianyang and the others, I will get it back for you. Let's hurry back to the Central Divine Kingdom. If Mu Tianyang has escaped and we can't find him, we will immediately go to the Great Qin Empire to support Feiyang, the mysterious lady said. Okay. The three nodded. The mysterious madam opened a teleportation door. The four of them turned into streams of light and flew in like lightning. Butterfly Valley. Secret room. The bloody altar shone brightly. Soon Qin Feiyang appeared on the altar. Then, he immediately revived the altar and went to the imperial capital. However, he was shocked to find that the altar could not be revived. What was going on? Little cousin, have you returned to the imperial capital? Lu Zheng's voice sounded again. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Lu Zheng appeared. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was still in the secret room, he immediately said angrily, Why are you still here? The altar can't be revived. Qin Feiyang stared at the altar and said in a deep voice, It can't be revived? Lu Zheng was surprised. The power of the false god emerged and poured into the altar. Sure enough, the altar did not react at all. How can this be? If it can be revived from the forgotten continent, it means that there is no problem with this altar. Lu Zheng frowned. Suddenly, the two seemed to have thought of something and looked at each other at the same time. This should be the only possibility. The altar of the pagoda was destroyed by Zhuge Mingyang. Lu Zheng said, burning with anger. Qin Feiyang nodded. Lu Zheng urged. Quickly go to the other 8 provinces. Qin Feiyang said. If it were you, would you only destroy one altar? There was no doubt. The bloody altars in the imperial capital's pagoda must have been destroyed. Zhuge Mingyang did this to make it impossible for them to enter the imperial capital. As long as they could not enter the imperial capital, Zhuge Mingyang could do whatever he wanted. Quickly think of a way. Lu Zheng roared. Chapter 1778. What's the hurry? Qin Feiyang glared at him angrily. The worse the situation was, the calmer he had to be. He pondered for a while. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up as he took out a stone door. This is... Lu Zheng was overjoyed when he saw the stone door. Yes. This is the fake space-time gate. Qin Feiyang nodded and sneered. You think you can stop us in the 9 prefectures by destroying the altar? How naive. Lu Zheng was overjoyed and said, Let's go directly to the Lu family. Go directly to the Lu family? Qin Feiyang frowned. Yes. Zhuge Shunfeng is free, and the Lu family will have a big change. And now, in the entire imperial capital, only the Lu family can pose a threat to Zhuge Mingyang. If you were Zhuge Mingyang, what would you do after destroying the altar? Lu Zheng said. Get rid of the Lu family immediately, Qin Feiyang said without hesitation. Yes. Maybe they are already in the Lu family now, Lu Zheng said in a low voice. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. A wisp of divine power surged, and the space-time gate quickly opened. Let's go. Lu Zheng ran toward the space-time gate impatiently. Wait. Qin Feiyang reached out and grabbed him. What's wrong? Lu Zheng was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said. If Zhuge Mingyang and the others are really in the Lu family, then I need you to do something with me later. What is it? Lu Zheng asked. Qin Feiyang leaned over to Lu Zheng's ear and whispered a few words. Lu Zheng heard and was puzzled. Why? Just do as I say. Maybe this time, the truth will be revealed to the world. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed as he stepped out of the space-time gate. Lu Zheng followed closely behind. The Lu family. A small village in the middle of nowhere. Even if someone passed by, they wouldn't take a second look. The Lu family was just that low-key and simple. But today countless experts had arrived. In the sky above the Lu clan, to the left, the soldiers of the Kirin army wore fiery red armor and stood in the wind. The long spears in their hands emitted a shocking sharpness. At a glance, it was estimated that there were more than 2,000 Kirin army. Their cultivation levels were basically all above the War Emperor level. Their bodies were filled with an austere aura. Simultaneously, on the right side of the sky above the Lu family, there was a group of black-clothed men. They stood side by side, exuding an aura that was even scarier than that of the Kirin army. The weakest among them was a 5-star combat emperor. Yes, they were the enforcers of the law enforcement hall. There were those from the outer hall, and those from the inner hall. Their numbers also reached 2,000 to 3,000. As they looked down at the Lu clan below, their eyes emitted intense cold light. Other than that, there were also dozens of people. These people stood in front of the Kirin army and the law enforcers. Kirin army, in front. A middle-aged man in golden armor stood in front of them. His face was rough and his eyes flashed with a fierce light. That's right. He was the commander of the Kirin army. Beside the commander of the Kirin army, there was another middle-aged man. This man was wearing a dragon robe and a dragon crown. His hands were behind his back, and his entire body exuded a vast aura of an emperor. That's right. He was Qin Feiyang's father. But now, he was wearing a dragon robe again. It was obvious that he had regained the throne and the power of the emperor. Moreover, his aura had also reached the level of a false god. It was obvious. After a few years, he had already broken through to the false god level. On both sides of the emperor and the commander of the Kirin army, there was a group of marquises standing respectfully. Beside the emperor, other than the commander of the Kirin army and a group of marquises, there were also 3 old men. The 3 of them looked extremely old, but they were extremely eye-catching when they stood in the crowd, because they were all false gods. One of them had once fought with Qin Feiyang, and it was Qin Sheng. These 3 people were all existences who had sealed themselves in the back mountain of the imperial palace. Now they had all come out. It was conceivable that the emperor had led his people to the Lu family with no good intentions. And on the opposite side, in front of the law enforcers, there were 3 people standing side by side. They were Zhuge Mingyang, the state preceptor, and Emperor Hong, these 3 war gods. It could be said that the experts of the imperial palace had come out in full force this time. You really think highly of my Lu family. In the village below, 2nd Grandpa, 3rd Grandpa, and 4th Grandpa stood together, looking gloomily at the emperor and the others. The one who spoke was 2nd Grandpa. Behind the 3 of them, there were no less than 2,000 people gathered. Their cultivation was even more terrifying. They were all 9-star combat emperors, or the peak of 9-star combat emperors. As for the others, for example, women, children, and children stood in their own homes, looking at the state preceptor's group. Their eyes were filled with cold light. The Lu family has been recuperating for so many years. How dare we look down on them? The state preceptor looked down at 2nd Grandpa and sneered. 2nd Grandpa said, "Then there's no need to trouble you 3 war gods, right?" The state preceptor revealed a look of surprise and said, You can actually see through our cultivation. It seems that you, old man, are not simple either. Ancestor, there's no need to talk nonsense with them. Just do it. Zhuge Mingyang smiled sinisterly, took a step forward, and his aura exploded. Kid, it's not your turn to be arrogant. Third Grandpa snorted coldly, took a step into the sky, and slapped towards Zhuge Mingyang. To deal with a mere fake god like you, I only need one finger. Zhuge Mingyang's face was full of disdain. He really only stretched out a finger, and a grayish-white divine power roared out. Boom. His fingertips and Third Grandpa's palm collided with each other. Third Grandpa was sent flying. His arm was shattered, and his flesh and blood splattered everywhere. With a bang, he smashed into the ground. Old 3, Second Grandpa's face changed drastically. Zhuge Mingyang smiled and said, "Don't be nervous. I didn't use my full strength. He won't die yet." As expected. Before he finished his words, Third Grandpa climbed up from the ground, his body covered in blood. He looked up at Zhuge Mingyang, his eyes full of wariness. The strength of a god of war was indeed extraordinary. A fake god was as insignificant as an ant in front of a god of war. No, they were even less than an ant. What should I do? I really don't want to kill you, but you have to die. I'm so conflicted. Zhuge Mingyang joked. Third Grandpa took a step forward and landed beside Second Grandpa and Fourth Grandpa. He said in a low voice, "Let's not talk about the others first. Just Zhuge Mingyang, the state preceptor, and Emperor Hong are 3 gods of war. We are no match for them." Fourth Grandpa's eyes flashed. Second Grandpa also frowned. Zhuge Mingyang laughed and said, "If Qin Feiyang can come, the Lu family will have a chance to survive." Second Grandpa was taken aback, and then he said happily, "Has Feiyang become a god of war?" "He hasn't. But he has a few subordinates who are gods of war. But unfortunately, the altar of the pagoda has been destroyed by me. The space-time gate has also been closed. In other words, the imperial capital is now a prison. No one can enter or leave." Zhuge Mingyang smiled. "What? The altar of the pagoda has been destroyed?" Second Grandpa's eyes trembled. The other members of the Lu family were also in an uproar. Very desperate, right? That's true. If it were anyone else, they would feel helpless when faced with such a situation. What a pity. The Lu family can be considered a hidden overlord, but now it's going to be destroyed, exterminated, and become a speck of dust in history. How about this? You submit to me and treat me as your master. I'll plead for mercy for you and ask His Majesty and the state preceptor to let you live." Zhuge Mingyang said playfully. "Submit to you? Treat you as my master? I'm afraid you don't have the right." Fourth Grandpa took a step forward and looked at Zhuge Mingyang. "Is that so?" Zhuge Mingyang smiled. Although the Lu family didn't enter the miracle site this time, the strength of the Lu family is not as weak as you think. Fourth Grandpa's expression was calm. He leaped and swept toward Zhuge Mingyang. "Is that so? Then I'll have to take a good look." Zhuge Mingyang's face was full of contempt. He still stretched out a finger and attacked Fourth Grandpa. Whoosh! But also at this moment, 2 figures silently appeared in the land of inheritance of the Lu family. They were Qin Feiyang and Lu Zheng. As soon as the 2 of them appeared, they saw this scene. Immediately, Lu Zheng's face changed color. Zhuge Mingyang was a god of war, and his means were extremely terrifying. How could Fourth Grandpa be his opponent? Wait. Just as Lu Zheng was about to rush over to help, Qin Feiyang grabbed Lu Zheng and shook his head. "Don't do it first." "Why? Are you going to leave him in the lurch?" Lu Zheng raised his eyebrows. "Everyone here is my family. How can I leave him in the lurch?" Qin Feiyang said angrily. "Then why are you doing this?" Lu Zheng was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, "Don't you want to know how strong the Lu family's foundation is?" "You mean?" Lu Zheng was surprised. Although he was born in the Lu family, he really didn't know about the Lu family's foundation. Look at Fourth Grandpa. His expression is unimaginably calm. He must have something to rely on. Let's take a look first. Qin Feiyang said. Okay. Lu Zheng nodded. If Qin Feiyang didn't do anything, It would be meaningless for him to go alone to help. Because he was just a pseudo-god. In the face of the powerful Zhuge Mingyang, he was no match at all. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed as he entered the Black Tortoise realm. Old Man Qin, Zhao Tailai Tang Hai, the Golden Leopard, and Cui Li were all in the herb field in the Devil's Land. Qin Feiyang glanced at the three of them and the Golden Leopard and asked, "How are you guys?" "We have already taken the Spirit Sea pill. We will be able to fight again soon." Old Man Qin said. "Very good." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Young master, when will you send me out? I really want to find someone to fight now." Cui Li grinned. "No hurry. There will be a time for you to show your strength," Qin Feiyang said. "Okay." Cui Li nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand again, and the tens of thousands of cedars appeared in his body. Seeing this, Old Man Qin hurriedly said, "Feiyang, we have already taken the Spirit Sea pill. We don't need their help. Don't waste your vitality." Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "I didn't ask them to help you repair your Sea of Qi." "Then why?" Old Man Qin was suspicious. "Once this battle breaks out, I'm afraid it will be difficult to stop it. We don't know what will happen in the future. And these cedars are the key, because they can save our lives at a critical moment. So now, I ask them to come out and absorb the vitality of the Devil's Land to recover to their peak state," Qin Feiyang said. Chapter 1779. So that's how it is. Old Man Qin suddenly realized. Indeed, the existence of these cedars could play a crucial role. Qin Feiyang looked at the tens of thousands of cedars and bowed. "Everyone, thank you for your companionship and help along the way. This junior earnestly asks you to help this junior one more time. When this battle is over, whether to leave or stay, this junior will not force you." Tens of thousands of cedars shook at the same time, making rustling sounds, as if responding to Qin Feiyang. Immediately after, they turned into a stream of light, breaking through the air, taking root in various places of the Devil's Land, and began to absorb vitality. "Thank you," Qin Feiyang said gratefully in his heart, then left the Black Tortoise realm, and appeared beside Lu Zheng. Boom! As soon as he came out, he sensed a terrifying fluctuation of divine power. Looking at Lu Zheng again. At this moment, he stared at Fourth Grandpa, his eyes full of disbelief. Above the village, Fourth Grandpa supported himself with a walking stick, standing against the wind. His whole body was surrounded by dazzling flames, his expression extremely calm. And Zhuge Mingyang's fingers had been shattered, blood flowing out. At the scene, there was also a dead silence. Whether it was the state preceptor or Emperor Hong, they all looked at Fourth Grandpa dumbfounded. Divine power. Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. The flames on Fourth Grandpa's body were actually transformed from divine power. In other words, Fourth Grandpa was a god of war. Lu Zheng took a cold breath and exclaimed, "Unbelievable, really unbelievable. I thought that Fourth Grandpa would be seriously injured by Zhuge Mingyang, but I didn't expect that Fourth Grandpa was actually a god of war." Qin Feiyang was also shocked. He had met Fourth Grandpa once, and the impression he gave people was a bit cold. But Second Grandpa and Third Grandpa were the exact opposite. They were very enthusiastic people. So among the three grandpas, he liked Second Grandpa and Third Grandpa the most. As for Fourth Grandpa, although he was also a close relative, he was not very attached. However, he did not expect that this somewhat cold old man was actually so strong. At this moment, Zhuge Mingyang also looked at Fourth Grandpa with a face of surprise. "This old man has already said that the Lu family's strength is not as simple as you think. And the Lu family is not a place where you can behave atrociously just because you want to." Fourth Grandpa looked at Zhuge Mingyang and said calmly. Whoosh! Zhuge Mingyang didn't say a word. He teleported and arrived in front of Fourth Grandpa with a murderous look. With the previous lesson in mind, he did not use a single finger this time. He clenched his fists and threw a punch at Fourth Grandpa, causing the void to collapse. Fourth Grandpa's expression didn't change as he sent a palm strike through the air. Divine power surged out. Fist and palm met in an instant. Accompanied by a loud bang, The two of them retreated a few steps at the same time, the skin on their arms lacerated. Lu Zheng was dumbfounded by what he saw. One had to know. Even though fourth grandpa was a god of war, Zhuge Mingyang's divine power was naturally stronger. However, at that moment, the two of them were evenly matched. It's divine power, Qin Feiyang said. Divine power? Lu Zheng was surprised and doubtful. Yes. Fourth grandpa's divine power contains a very pure divine power of the divine phoenix. Look at fourth grandpa's blood, Qin Feiyang said. Blood? Lu Zheng was stunned. After careful observation, his gaze suddenly trembled. The blood that flowed out of fourth grandpa's body contained the power of the divine phoenix. The power of the divine phoenix. I remember second grandpa once said that the ancestors of the Lu family originally possessed the bloodline power of the divine phoenix. But none of the later generations could achieve ancestral awakening. I thought this was just a legend, but I didn't expect it to be true. In other words, fourth grandpa's bloodline has achieved ancestral awakening, Lu Zheng said. That should be the case, Qin Feiyang muttered. That's not right. Since the power of the divine phoenix can be compared to Zhuge Mingyang's divine power, why can't your purple gold divine dragon power compare to Zhuge Mingyang's divine power? Lu Zheng was suspicious. I'm also a little confused, Qin Feiyang said. There's a god of war hidden in the Lu family. In the sky above the village, the enforcers, the Kirin army, and the group of marquises all looked at fourth grandpa in shock. The emperor and the commander of the Kirin army also frowned. God of war. After Zhuge Mingyang stabilized his body, he looked at fourth grandpa and laughed. Not bad, not bad. Finally, I have a decent opponent. This is more interesting. Fourth grandpa was silent. Zhuge Mingyang smiled and said, however, old man, do you really understand my strength? Boom. The bone dragon battle soul was activated. The innate divine ability enveloped the entire area. Fourth grandpa's cultivation immediately dropped. What's going on? Second grandpa and third grandpa's expressions changed. The people of the Lu family were also very surprised. This innate divine ability had the ability to deprive people of their cultivation? Fourth grandpa's pupils shrank slightly. Under my innate divine ability, anyone can only despair. Zhuge Mingyang smiled ferociously and charged toward fourth grandpa. Fourth grandpa quickly retreated. However, how could he, whose cultivation had dropped, be faster than Zhuge Mingyang? Zhuge Mingyang approached fourth grandpa with lightning speed and hit him in the chest. Puff. Fourth grandpa spat out a mouthful of blood and smashed into the ground outside the village like a meteorite. Boom. The mountain collapsed and the ground cracked. Dust and smoke billowed. Fourth grandpa. Second grandpa and third grandpa shouted. Fourth grandpa rushed out of the dust and landed beside second grandpa and third grandpa. He said in a low voice, his strength is beyond our imagination. We can only activate the defensive barrier now. Activate the defensive barrier. Second grandpa and third grandpa's eyes trembled. What's a defensive barrier? Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously. I don't know either. Lu Zheng shook his head. Zhuge Mingyang and the others were also suspicious when they heard the words, defensive barrier. Second grandpa frowned and said, fourth grandpa, the defensive barrier can only be activated once. Are you sure? Didn't Big Brother leave this defensive barrier to protect the descendants of the Lu family in times of crisis? But now, the Imperial Palace's experts have come out in full force. Our Lu family is in trouble. If we don't activate the defensive barrier now, when will we activate it? Fourth grandpa said. Hearing this, second grandpa raised his head and glanced at Zhuge Mingyang and the others. He then looked at the surrounding villagers and gritted his teeth. Okay, activate the defensive barrier. Immediately. Fourth grandpa raised the crutch in his hand and poured his divine power into it. That's grandpa's crutch. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. Boom. The next moment, a peerlessly terrifying aura roared out from the crutch. This aura caused everyone present to tremble. What's that? Zhuge Mingyang and the others stared at the crutch in surprise. Open. Fourth grandpa suddenly let out a roar. The crutch suddenly burst out with a dazzling divine light. As soon as these divine lights emerged, they flooded in all directions. In less than 3 breaths, a huge barrier appeared in front of everyone's eyes, covering an area of thousands of miles. In short, the entire Lu family, including the land of inheritance, was within the range of the barrier. You think you can escape this disaster with a broken barrier? Naive. Zhuge Mingyang smiled contemptuously. Divine power poured out like a torrent and blasted toward the barrier. However, the next moment he was dumbfounded. Divine power blasted on the barrier, but the barrier did not even shake. So strong? State Preceptor and Emperor Hong were also shocked. After regaining their senses, the two looked at each other and shouted, "Mingyang, we're here to help you." "No need. How can a mere barrier stump me?" Zhuge Mingyang sneered. A giant dragon appeared out of nowhere. The dragon roared. Followed closely, another giant hand that blotted out the sky appeared. Demonic might overflowed. It was his divine art. Bone Dragon secret art and demonic hand. The two divine arts carried monstrous divine power and blasted toward the barrier. Boom. With a loud noise, the two divine arts blasted on the barrier. But the result was that the barrier only shook for a moment and then immediately returned to normal. Zhuge Mingyang froze. A barrier created by a broken crutch was actually this sturdy? In the land of inheritance, Qin Feiyang and Lu Zheng were also dumbstruck when they saw this scene. Lu Zheng naturally did not need to say anything. Living here, he often saw that crutch. And Qin Feiyang had also seen this crutch the last time he entered the Lu family. But at that time, fourth grandpa only told him that this was his grandfather's crutch. He did not say that it had such terrifying divine power. And at that time, on this crutch, except for a particularly strong sense of familiarity, he did not realize how powerful this crutch was. However, at this moment, even he was ashamed of his inferiority when it came to the power of the walking stick. He was not confident that he could break this barrier. Boom. The Imperial Advisor and Emperor Hong could no longer hold it in and attacked together. Zhuge Mingyang did not refuse their help this time. Divine power was like a waterfall. The three of them all evolved their strongest divine arts and blasted toward the barrier. Rumble. The deafening sound was like thunder. The barrier was constantly trembling, but there was no sign of it breaking. How could this be? Emperor Hong and the other two were in disbelief. It's useless. Although this old man doesn't know how strong this barrier is, the boss said before he left that even if 10 initial stage war gods join forces, they won't be able to break it. Fourth grandpa said expressionlessly. What? Even 10 initial stage war gods joining forces can't break it? The three of them were shocked. The commander of the Kirin army, the various marquis, and the law enforcers were also in disbelief. Don't be fooled by him. In this world, there is no barrier that can't be broken. Everyone, attack together with me. But at this moment, the emperor shouted. As soon as the emperor's voice sounded, Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at the emperor, a cold light surging in his eyes. At this time, he was still helping Zhuge Mingyang. It was unforgivable. Then, he looked at the commander of the Kirin army again, and his killing intent was also aroused. In the past, he trusted this person so much, but he didn't expect that he would betray him. Of course, he had already guessed that the reason why the commander of the Kirin army betrayed him must be because of the emperor. Because this person was only loyal to the emperor. But even so, he couldn't stand it. Rumble. Clang. Above the village. As soon as the emperor's voice fell, everyone immediately used their strongest means and attacked the barrier together with Emperor Hong and the other two. For a time, this world was drowned by the aura of battle arts, battle souls, battle chi, divine arts and divine power. A series of loud sounds shook the heavens and the earth. However, that barrier was like a stubborn stone. No matter how fiercely it was bombarded, it was not damaged in the slightest. That terrifying defense made people unable to help but despair. Powerless. Chapter 1780. Fourth grandpa looked at the barrier, then at Zhuge Mingyang and the others, and said lightly, "Everything you've done is in vain." I don't believe it. When Lu Zhengyang was kidnapped, he was only a false god. How could he set up such a powerful barrier? Zhuge Mingyang roared. Not only you, but we also can't figure it out. How did Big Brother do it? But that's not important now, as long as we can stop you, Second Grandpa said. Grandpa was kidnapped. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but fly across the sky like lightning and land in front of Second Grandpa and the others. Feiyang, Second Grandpa, Third Grandpa, and Fourth Grandpa were stunned. Whoosh! Lu Zheng followed closely behind. Zheng. The three of them were stunned again. Then, the three of them were overjoyed. The other members of the Lu family were also overjoyed. At the same time, high in the sky, Zhuge Mingyang and the others also looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. Wasn't the altar destroyed? Wasn't the space-time gate closed? But how did these two people come back? Impossible. You're definitely not Qin Feiyang. Who are you? Zhuge Mingyang roared. Then he looked at the commander of the Kirin army, whose face was full of panic. Because he knew Qin Feiyang very well. Anyone who betrayed him would not have a good ending. However, Qin Feiyang didn't pay attention to him at all, nor did he answer Zhuge Mingyang. He looked at Fourth Grandpa and said, Do you remember what you said to me in the herb field? Fourth Grandpa's pupils shrank. You may not remember, but I remember it clearly. At that time you told me that Grandpa was in seclusion. But is he really in seclusion? Qin Feiyang said. Fourth Grandpa looked at Second Grandpa and Third Grandpa. However, the two old men looked away guiltily. Fourth Grandpa said angrily, Second brother, Third brother, that's not right of you. You were the ones who told me to say that. Fourth brother, you. The two of them immediately glared at Fourth Grandpa. Fourth Grandpa snorted and said, I'm telling you, I'm not going to clean up this mess. You guys do as you see fit. Second Grandpa and Third Grandpa looked at each other with bitter smiles on their faces. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them and frowned. Is it fun to lie to me? Feiyang. Second Grandpa wanted to say something. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sighed. I also know that all of you are doing this for my own good. However, all of you have to understand me. After being deceived by all of you for so long, I feel like a fool. The three of them looked at each other and sighed. Actually, I don't need you to tell me. I already have some understanding. Back at the miraculous site, the fiend ancestor vaguely revealed that grandfather had been kidnapped. Qin Feiyang said, You've already met the fiend ancestor? The three of them were surprised. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, To be exact, it's just a wisp of the fiend ancestor's divine sense. The three of them wanted to say something but stopped. I'll find out the truth myself. Qin Feiyang murmured and asked, Is it true that the commander of the Kirin army betrayed us? Hearing Qin Feiyang mention him, the commander of the Kirin army looked even more flustered. How did you know? Second Grandpa and the other two were stunned. Didn't this guy just come back? Qin Feiyang said. Someone secretly told us. Sun Dahai's tip-off must not be revealed. Otherwise, it would bring him a fatal disaster. Second Grandpa said. There aren't many people who know about this. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. This happened in our Lu family. Our Lu family is located in a remote place where there are few people. Therefore, other than us, only the people from the imperial palace know about it. After that, the emperor gave a special order to block this news. Therefore, there are undoubtedly fewer people who know about this. Second Grandpa said. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. In this case, it was even more important that Sun Dahai's tip-off was not revealed. Lu Zheng asked suspiciously, Second Grandpa, what exactly happened? This happened half a year ago. One day, half a year ago, the commander of the Kirin army came to me and old Master Ren, saying that he wanted to take a look at the ancient pagoda. At that time, because this person had a good relationship with Feiyang, we didn't suspect anything. So old Master Ren took him in. But not long after he went in, he took old Master Ren hostage, and came out with Zhuge Shenfeng. You all know Zhuge Shenfeng's identity, right? Second Grandpa asked. Qin Feiyang and Lu Zheng nodded. Zhuge Shenfeng and the state preceptor were brothers. Of course they knew. Originally, we wanted to force them to stay, but because Old Master Run was in their hands, we didn't dare to do it. Second Grandpa sighed. Isn't Fourth Grandpa a god of war? Even if Zhuge Shenfeng escaped, he was only a false god. How could he not be able to stop them? Qin Feiyang frowned. If that was the case, Zhuge Shenfeng and the others definitely wouldn't be able to escape. But just as we were about to make a move, a god of war descended. According to that god of war, it was a subordinate of the demon ancestor. Second Grandpa said. A god of war. Qin Feiyang was shocked. There was a god of war hidden in the Great Qin Empire? You also know that a god of war level god of war is not that easy to deal with, so we had no choice but to let you go. Second Grandpa sighed. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, what about the ancient pagoda? Second Grandpa said. It was also taken away by that god of war. Qin Feiyang said, so, not only Old Master Ren, but everyone in the ancient pagoda also fell into the hands of that god of war. Yes. Second Grandpa nodded. Where is that god of war now? Qin Feiyang said angrily. Second Grandpa glanced at Zhuge Mingyang and the others and sent a voice transmission. Right after the gate of time and space closed, your Uncle Black sent me a message saying that after the divine beast met with Zhuge Mingyang and the others, it opened the teleportation gate and left. What about Zhuge Shenfeng? Qin Feiyang said. He also left with that god of war. Second Grandpa said. That god of war must have taken the demon ancestor's divine body to the reincarnation ocean. Qin Feiyang sighed. It's all that damn snow python's fault. If it wasn't for her, that god of war wouldn't have had the chance to take away the demon ancestor's divine body. Lu Zheng was furious. Don't worry. I'll settle this score with her. Now let's deal with these people first. As for Old Master Run and the others, as long as I'm not dead, they shouldn't be in danger. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with killing intent. Marquis Xiao was also killed, right? Yes. It can be said that Marquis Xiao died the most unjustly. Because he supported you, he was swallowed alive by that god of war. Second Grandpa said. I won't let him die unjustly. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands and asked. Can I go out of this barrier? Yes. But once you go out, you can't come in again. Because I can't control this barrier. I can only wait for it to dissipate. Fourth Grandpa said. It doesn't matter if you can come in again. Qin Feiyang shook his head and asked. How long will it take before it dissipates? One day. This is what your grandfather said himself. Fourth Grandpa said. One day? It's enough to deal with them. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself and said with a smile. You three elders can just stand here and watch. You can even make a pot of tea and drink it while watching the battle. The three of them were stunned. Make a pot of tea and drink it while watching? Was he that confident? Second Grandpa said secretly, Fourth Grandpa, what's this kid's cultivation level now? False god. Fourth Grandpa transmitted his voice. Brat, a mere false god dares to be so arrogant? Second Grandpa cursed secretly. However, it was also worth looking forward to. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and secretly said to Lu Zheng, act according to the plan. Okay. Lu Zheng replied. At this time, Qin Feiyang finally raised his head and looked at Zhuge Mingyang. Zhuge Mingyang said angrily, tell me, how did you come back? It was indeed a good idea for you to destroy the altar. If it were me, I would have done the same. However, there's a good saying that there's always a path before a mountain. Qin Feiyang said. What are you so proud of? If you have the guts, don't hide in that barrier. Come out and fight with me for 300 rounds. Zhuge Mingyang was seething with anger. The state preceptor frowned and reminded, Mingyang, don't be provoked by him. Zhuge Mingyang was stunned, and his anger immediately dissipated. He laughed cruelly and said, Qin Feiyang, don't say that I look down on you. I'm afraid you don't dare to come out now. Instead, you're provoking me? Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. Yes. I'm provoking you. Do you want to come out or not? Zhuge Mingyang sneered. As you wish. Qin Feiyang said word by word, rushed out of the barrier, and stood in the void. Little cousin, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Old Man Qin and Zhao Tailai are in Forgotten Continent. What are you doing out there? Lu Zheng's expression immediately changed and he roared. Shut up. Qin Feiyang immediately lowered his head and glared at Lu Zheng, shouting, Didn't I say that this matter must be kept a secret? Lu Zheng's expression froze, and he blamed himself. I'm sorry, in a moment of desperation, I forgot. What? Old Man Qin and the others are in Forgotten Continent? Zhuge Mingyang, the state preceptor, and Emperor Hong looked at each other. Was this true? If so, then this Qin Feiyang, wouldn't there be no threat? You really can't accomplish anything, but you're good at spoiling things. Qin Feiyang glared fiercely at Lu Zheng. Lu Zheng raised his eyebrows and said angrily, Although I spilled the beans, I'm still your cousin. Aren't you being too impudent by saying that to me? Qin Feiyang didn't pay any more attention to him. He looked at Zhuge Mingyang and said, Old Man Qin and the others are the strongest fighting force by my side. Would you believe that I would leave them behind in Forgotten Continent? Haha. If this sentence came from someone else's mouth, I definitely wouldn't believe it. But Lu Zheng is your cousin. You're worried, and you spilled the beans. How could it be fake? Don't pretend to be calm anymore. Your tricks are useless against me. Zhuge Mingyang laughed, his face full of ridicule. It's good that you believe it. Qin Feiyang muttered secretly. If Zhuge Mingyang didn't believe it, he would be in a difficult position. Zhuge Mingyang asked curiously, But I don't understand. Why do you want to leave Old Man Qin and the others in Forgotten Continent? You're so smart. Do you still need me to answer? Qin Feiyang coldly snorted. So, as I expected, the battle between you and Mu Tianyang has already begun, and you left Old Man Qin and the others in Forgotten Continent to deal with Mu Tianyang? Zhuge Mingyang said. You know too much. Qin Feiyang said. I see. The Mu family has Mu Changfeng and Mu Changyin, these two gods of war. Mu Tianyang even has a heaven-defying artifact. The mysterious Madam and Yishu alone are no match for them. So Old Man Qin and the others must stay in Forgotten Continent. And you, after knowing that the commander of the Kirin army betrayed you, had no choice but to come back alone. Zhuge Mingyang laughed. The imperial tutor and Emperor Hong also revealed a victorious smile. Old Man Qin, Zhao Tailai, Tang Hai, and Shin Leopard weren't here, so this battle was basically suspenseful. What a self-righteous person. There will be a time for you to cry later. Lu Zheng secretly sneered. But until now he still didn't understand why Qin Feiyang would lie to Zhuge Mingyang and the others. Chapter 1781. Qin Feiyang scanned the audience. Zhuge Mingyang, the imperial tutor, and Emperor Hong's eyes were all in his eyes. However, he didn't pay attention to them. He turned around and looked at the emperor, the three of them, the commander of the Kirin army, and the group of Marquis. You still dare to ignore me? Zhuge Mingyang was furious. The imperial tutor reached out and grabbed him, secretly laughing. Mingyang, don't worry. Zhuge Mingyang was suspicious. Although the father and son have fought for so many years, they have never really fought. This time, the commander of the Kirin army has betrayed us. Qin Feiyang will definitely not let it go. And the emperor is also involved in everything that the Kirin army has done. Think about it, with Qin Feiyang's character, will he let him go? So let's just watch quietly, there will definitely be a good show later. The imperial tutor secretly said. Zhuge Mingyang was stunned and laughed. The ancestor is wise. Father and son killing each other is more satisfying than directly killing him. That's right. Old Qin and Zhao Tailai are all fighting with Mu Tianyang in the Forgotten Continent, so we don't need to rush to get rid of him. The imperial tutor said. Zhuge Mingyang nodded and crossed his arms in front of his chest. He calmly looked at Qin Feiyang and the emperor with a playful expression on his face. Then look at the emperor and the others. Facing Qin Feiyang's gaze, the commander of the Kirin army was extremely flustered, lowering his head, not daring to look directly at him. The group of Marquis also kept quiet out of fear. Only the three of them and the emperor stared straight at Qin Feiyang. Because they all had the cultivation of the false god, and could block that invisible deterrence. Qin Sheng sighed. Qin Feiyang, you are a subject of my great Qin. Is there a need to make such a fuss? quickly turn back. Turn back? Qin Feiyang muttered. Do you still remember the last time I killed Zhuge Xingfeng at the back mountain of the Imperial Palace? I remember. I even stepped forward to stop you. Qin Xing nodded. Qin Feiyang said. Then do you still remember what I said to you at that time? Qin Sheng frowned, as if he was recalling the situation at that time. Qin Feiyang said, back then, I told you that you are a fake god of Great Qin. So why are you helping the evildoers? Yes. You did say that. At that time, I also told you that it was precisely because this old man was a member of Great Qin that I would not allow you to act impudently in the imperial capital. Qin Sheng said. I also said that one day, you will understand who was right and who was wrong. I can even tell you that Emperor Hong is lying, that the imperial teacher is thinking about my Great Qin's rivers and mountains, right? Qin Feiyang said. That's right. Qin Sheng nodded. When the imperial teacher and Emperor Hong heard this, they immediately frowned. Who would have thought that Qin Feiyang would actually say these words to Qin Sheng? Qin Sheng looked at the two of them, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, You said so, but after thinking about it, I found that it was impossible. Why? Qin Feiyang frowned. Because Emperor Hong is your great-grandfather. Blood is thicker than water. How could he lie to the world and frame you? Then there is the imperial teacher. He is your father's master, and has been by your father's side all year round. If he really has this ambition, he can kill His Majesty at any time. But he didn't do that. This means that he is indeed loyal to my Great Qin. Qin Sheng said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and said with a smile, What you said makes sense. So quickly turn back. I will persuade His Majesty to forgive your past mistakes. Look at you, stepping into the false god realm at such a young age. Your future will definitely be limitless. As long as you are willing to turn over a new leaf, in time, you will definitely become the pillar of my Great Qin, an existence that the world admires and worships. Qin Sheng said. Turn over a new leaf. The world admires and worships. Qin Feiyang murmured. In his heart, an inexplicable sadness rose. In fact, it was not difficult to tell that Qin Sheng was the same as Elder Qin, sincerely thinking for the Great Qin. They all hoped that the Great Qin could get better and better. However, this person was blinded by the illusion of the imperial teacher and the others. Wasn't this a very sad thing? There was no point in continuing. It was time to make a move. Immediately, Qin Feiyang's eyes suddenly surged with killing intent. Qin Feiyang, don't be stubborn. Seeing this, Qin Sheng and the other two shouted angrily and immediately stood in front of the emperor. The commander of the Kirin army glanced at Qin Feiyang, then at the three of them, and murmured, 3 false gods, it shouldn't be a problem, right? Swish. But just as he spoke, Qin Feiyang took a step forward and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Qin Sheng and the other two scanned the void in surprise. Where did he go? Did he go to the ancient castle? The emperor also had a trace of doubt between his eyebrows. But in the next moment, Qin Feiyang appeared behind the commander of the Kirin army. As soon as the commander of the Kirin army sensed Qin Feiyang's aura, mixed colors hair stood on end and cold sweat poured down like rain. He felt as if there was a grim reaper behind him. He wanted to run away, but he found that his legs were weak and he could not even move a step. So fast. The three of them and the emperor were shocked. He had appeared behind the commander of the Kirin army in an instant. I don't object to your loyalty to the emperor. In fact, I'm very impressed, because at least this shows that you're a very loyal person. But you shouldn't have helped Zhuge Xingfeng escape. Qin Feiyang said softly. The commander of the Kirin army stammered, his body trembling violently, and he was extremely frightened. The emperor suddenly turned around and stared at Qin Feiyang, and said word by word, Don't you dare touch him. Haha. Qin Feiyang was stunned, then laughed and said, It seems that you still don't know me well. There's nothing in this world that I don't dare to do. Boom. Crack. The power of the false god appeared. And he grabbed the commander of the Kirin army by the head and suddenly squeezed his 5 fingers. The commander of the Kirin army's head exploded like a watermelon, and brain matter splattered everywhere. Kill. The marquises and the Kirin army were all stunned. The emperor's face also became extremely ugly. The three of them also looked gloomy. Looking at this scene, the state master secretly laughed and said, "Mingyang, see, the show is about to start. Fight, fight, it's best if you can kill all of them, so that I won't have to do it again in the future." Zhuge Mingyang laughed in his heart. Then he looked at Qin Feiyang. He clapped his hands, turned to look at the emperor and said with a bright smile, "What can you do if I kill them?" The emperor clenched his hands. Boom. All of a sudden, a terrifying power of the false god appeared, like a peerless storm, sweeping across the sky. The Kirin army and the marquises all retreated. However, Qin Feiyang, who was in the center of the storm, was not affected at all, as if nothing had happened. "The one thing that I regret most in my life is giving birth to a bastard like you. Today, I will put righteousness before family and get rid of you." The emperor's expression was indifferent, and the golden power of the false god, like a torrent, rushed toward Qin Feiyang. "Then do you know what is the saddest thing in my life, and what I hate the most? It is having a father like you." Qin Feiyang was furious, and the purple gold dragon Qi roared in the sky, and collided with the emperor's power of the false god. The space around them began to distort. Waves of terrifying air waves full of destructive power, covering the sky and the earth, rushed in all directions. "Since you hate it so much, why don't you find a place to die quietly? Death is the end of all troubles." The emperor roared, and the power of the false god turned into a golden dragon. The dragon's power shook the world, and rushed toward Qin Feiyang. This was the evolution of the divine art. The divine power shook all directions. "If I die, what will you do? There will be no one to collect your body." Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and a sword shadow flew out, almost tearing the sky. Guyuan sword technique. Now, his Guyuan sword technique had evolved into a divine art. Although it was only a low-tier divine art, the emperor's divine art, according to his observation, was only at this level. Roar. Clang. Boom. The dragon roared, and the sword shadow screamed. The two divine arts collided. Sure enough, this golden dragon was only a low-tier divine art. The moment they met, there was an earth-shattering bang, and the two immediately collapsed in the void. However, although for Qin Feiyang, it was like playing house for the Kirin army and marquis, it was like the existence of the divine art. They fled frantically. But even so, they were blown away by the air waves. One by one, they spat out blood, and their faces were pale. Their bodies were also covered with bruises. In just a moment, they were all seriously injured. And this was with the help of Qin Sheng and the others, who blocked most of the divine art. Otherwise, they would have all died. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the air waves around them calmed down. He looked at the emperor and said disdainfully, "After cultivating in Yuzhou for so long, is this all you've made? You've been cultivating in the divine ruins for a few years, and I don't think you've made much progress." The emperor snorted. The power of the false god kept roaring. Golden dragons appeared one after another. Each golden dragon was over a few thousand zhang long. They roared and danced in the sky like magnificent mountains. The divine art shook the sky. "Ah, you can never imagine my growth in the divine ruins. To put it bluntly, the god of war is just an ant in front of me." Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the red sword Qi surged. Clang. One sword shadow after another appeared in the sky above his head. The sharpness was terrifying. At last, the number of sword shadows reached 60. Originally, after breaking through to the god of war, he could already condense 70 sword shadows. But at this moment, he suppressed his cultivation, so he could only condense 60. Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and he shouted, "Today let's settle this. That's what I want," the emperor said. As soon as he finished speaking, the two waved their hands at the same time, and the sword shadows and golden dragons suddenly roared out and attacked each other. Boom. Clang. The two collided in the void. The sword shadows wailed. The golden dragons howled. They kept collapsing and disintegrating. The fire and golden light illuminated the sky and the earth. Chapter 1782. What is this kid doing? Inside the barrier. Lu Jing looked at Qin Feiyang and frowned. What are you mumbling about? Second grandpa asked suspiciously. Lu Jing thought to himself. I'm wondering why he doesn't kill the emperor quickly. Do you think the emperor is a pushover? He's a fake god now. I don't deny Feiyang's means, but it's not that easy to kill a fake god. Second grandpa said. Lu Jing was stunned. What's wrong? Look at your expression. Am I wrong? Second grandpa was suspicious. No. Lu Jing waved his hand and smiled secretly. You're right. The emperor is a fake god after all. I'm afraid it's difficult for my little cousin to defeat him. But he didn't think so. Old man, you still don't know your grandson's methods. Fake god? Haha. It's not enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Bastard, today is the day you die. After the last sword shadow collided with the last golden dragon, the emperor roared and instantly activated his fighting soul. The emperor prison shrouded Qin Feiyang. Swish. Qin Feiyang was immediately imprisoned in the void. Without saying a word, the emperor stepped forward and slapped Qin Feiyang's chest. You want to imprison me with your emperor prison? Qin Feiyang sneered. His body shook, and he immediately got rid of the emperor prison's shackles. Then he threw a punch. Bang. The fist and the palm collided. The emperor's arm was torn open. I don't even need to activate my fighting soul to deal with you. Qin Feiyang used the walk formula, and appeared behind the emperor with a cold expression. He slapped the emperor's back. Puff. The emperor spat out a mouthful of blood, and smashed into the barrier below like a meteorite. Blood flowed from his back. So strong? The three of them were shocked. They were all fake gods, but why was there such a big gap in strength? Today is not the day I die, but the day you die. And after you die, don't even think about entering the imperial mausoleum. Because you don't deserve it. Qin Feiyang's aura was like a rainbow as he swooped down at lightning speed toward the emperor. The imperial mausoleum was behind the imperial palace. It was the tomb of the Qin clan. Only the descendants of the Qin clan were qualified to be buried in the imperial mausoleum. The emperor roared. Wasn't it enough that you killed your brother? Now you want to kill your father? I have already returned the bloodline power to you. How can you talk about patricide? Qin Feiyang didn't move in the slightest. An invisible force surged around him. Now the Ruin's End incantation had evolved into a mid-tier divine incantation. Although it was only a grade lower than a low-tier deity art, the difference in power was like heaven and earth. If the emperor did not have the intermediate deity formula, he would definitely die. Come. The three of them streaked across the sky like lightning and landed beside the emperor. What is it? Qin Feiyang said. You forced us to do this. If you can mend your ways, everyone will be happy. But there's no other way. You're too stubborn. We can only kill you for the sake of the people. Qin Sheng said. Kill you for the sake of the people. Then come. Let me see if the three of you are worthy of being the pillars of the great Qin dynasty. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the surging formless energy around him immediately turned into a huge wave that pounced towards the four people. Back off. I don't need your help. But the emperor didn't appreciate it and shouted at the three of them. Your Majesty. The three of them were very anxious. What? Even you want to defy my order? The emperor said angrily. We wouldn't dare. The three of them quickly lowered their heads and looked at each other before silently retreating to the side. Your growth is indeed beyond my expectations. But if this is all you've got, I'm afraid I'll be the one to collect your corpse today. The monarch raised his head and coldly looked at Qin Feiyang. After he finished speaking, he shouted, 9 dragons god-extinguishing formation. As soon as he finished speaking, the boundless false god power poured out like a flood from an open dam. Roar. Accompanied by a series of deafening dragon roars, 9 giant golden dragons were born. The 9 dragons roared in the sky and joined together to form a 9-pointed star pattern. Boom. Immediately, a shocking divine power erupted, shaking the void and the earth. Qin Feiyang was surprised. The aura of the 9 dragons god-killing array had reached the level of a middle-class divine art. I'm the emperor. In front of me, All things are ants. Kill! The emperor shouted in a sonorous voice. The 9-pointed star pattern suddenly rushed into the sky with the power to destroy the world and blasted toward the invisible force. Boom! The two suddenly collided. The sky changed color, and the clouds surged. Puff! Qin Feiyang's body trembled slightly, and a trace of blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. What? Little cousin is injured. Lu Zheng was shocked. Was the 9 dragons god-killing array so terrifying? However, the emperor also took a few steps back, his face extremely pale. He looked at Qin Feiyang in shock and said, "You're also a middle-class divine art? Is it strange that I have a middle-class divine art?" Qin Feiyang sneered and used the Xing formula. As if he had teleported, he landed in front of the emperor. Bang! He raised his right foot and kicked the emperor's left knee directly. Crack! The knee immediately shattered. The emperor staggered and almost knelt down. However, before he could stabilize his body, Qin Feiyang kicked his right knee again. With a crack, the emperor's right knee also shattered. Immediately, the emperor knelt down powerlessly. "Qin Feiyang, don't be presumptuous." The three of them shouted and hurried forward to support the emperor. One of the old men stared at Qin Feiyang and shouted, "He's your father. Can you bear his kneeling? He has to pay the price for doing wrong. I'm not asking him to kneel to me. I just want him to repent before he dies." Qin Feiyang said expressionlessly, "You're really a beast." The old man was burning with anger. His aura surged out and he slapped Qin Feiyang's forehead between his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, raised his big hand, grabbed the old man's wrist, and then squeezed hard. The old man's wrist suddenly shattered with a crack. The old man's face twisted in pain. "This power. Is this your real strength?" Qin Sheng's eyes widened in anger. "My real strength," Qin Feiyang murmured and said. "I'm afraid you won't have the chance to see it." Swish. After that, he let go of the old man's wrist, retreated dozens of feet like lightning, and made a seal with both hands. Boom. A palm-sized divine seal appeared. The divine seal was fiery red, and at the bottom was a vivid divine phoenix. It was the Fire Phoenix seal. The aura of the Fire Phoenix seal. Second grandpa, third grandpa, and fourth grandpa looked at the Fire Phoenix seal, their old eyes full of surprise. Lu Zheng smiled and said, "Do you feel that it's stronger than the Fire Phoenix seal that we evolved?" The three of them nodded. "Because little cousin has already upgraded the level of the Fire Phoenix technique," Lu Zheng said. "Upgraded the level of the Fire Phoenix technique?" The three of them looked at him suspiciously. "Yes. The Fire Phoenix technique that he has mastered is the same as Big Brother's, a high-tier divine technique," Lu Zheng said. "High-tier divine technique." The three of them murmured, their eyes full of disbelief. As the descendants and elders of the Lu family, of course they knew the Fire Phoenix technique best. Once, when the ancestors of the Lu family left the inheritance, the Fire Phoenix technique was indeed only a middle-tier battle technique. But they didn't expect that this kid could actually upgrade the Fire Phoenix technique. "Wait, where's your big brother? Why don't I see him?" Second grandpa looked at the Lu family and asked in surprise. "Big brother he," Lu Zheng murmured and sighed. "We'll talk about Big Brother after this is over." "What's with your expression? Could it be that your big brother?" When second grandpa and the other two said this, a wave of sadness that could not be dissipated immediately rose up from their bodies. Lu Zheng hurriedly said, "Don't worry, Big Brother should be alive now." "What do you mean by should be alive?" "If he's dead, he's dead. If he's not dead, he's not dead," second grandpa said angrily. "It's a long story." Lu Zheng sighed deeply. In the sky, Qin Feiyang stood in the wind, the Fire Phoenix seal exuding a godly aura that could shake the heavens. The three of them also saw that the Fire Phoenix seal was extraordinary, and their eyes were extremely serious. The emperor stared at Qin Feiyang and said in a low voice, "This bastard's growth has exceeded our expectations. Let's fight to the death." The three of them nodded. Boom. The golden false god power appeared, and the emperor once again evolved the 9 dragons god-destroying formation. Qin Sheng and the other two's bodies shook as they poured out their false god power without holding back. Clang. Boom. Accompanied by a series of loud noises, the false god power of the three of them condensed into three different divine weapons in the sky. A pitch-black battle axe, a golden palace, a fiery red battle sword. These were their divine arts. The terrifying aura and sharpness shocked all directions. Kill. The Emperor roared. The 9 dragons' god-destroying formation rushed forward. The divine arts of the three of them also carried monstrous power, and rushed toward Qin Feiyang. It's just a low-grade divine art. What can it do? Qin Feiyang said coldly. The fire phoenix seal in front of him suddenly expanded. In an instant, it turned into a towering mountain. Boom. As he waved his hand, the fire phoenix seal roared out. The 9 dragons' god-destroying formation was instantly annihilated. The divine arts of the three of them also shattered one after another without causing any disturbance. It could be said that it was completely unstoppable. Qin Feiyang glanced at the three of them and said disappointedly, "With your strength, you don't deserve to be the pillars of the great Qin dynasty." "We are sure that we don't deserve to be. However, we will not allow anyone who wants to shake the great Qin dynasty. We are willing to defend and protect the great Qin dynasty with our lives." The three of them roared. "Defend and protect with our lives," Qin Feiyang murmured. Wasn't this the same as him? He had been defending and protecting the great Qin dynasty with his life all this time. "Qin Feiyang, I don't care what you want to do. But as long as you threaten the great Qin dynasty and its people, we will fight you to the end. Even if we die, we will not regret it." Qin Sheng enunciated each and every word clearly and powerfully. Clang. An earth-shattering sound exploded in Qin Sheng's body. Boom. Then, a palm-sized ancient pagoda flew out from between Qin Sheng's eyebrows. Immediately, the entire area was enveloped in a sea of divine might. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.